Good evening, everybody. Coming in on the very end of my my window, but I'm doing my best to try and get things back into order. I've been doing Among Us Against the Storm for a while, and I really like that game. But one thing I will say is I miss Old World a lot. This is one of the big challenges of doing a kind of a dedicated day for Hooded Horse is that they've come out so strong um, that it actually makes it quite difficult to spend all the time that I would like with all of the other games. So, for instance, sort of sitting in the background is Terra Invicta, which I'm also really looking forward to getting back to. But there's actually a couple things that have happened that really made me feel like I wanted to do Old World again, and I actually have kind of an idea about how I'm gonna go about it. So if you can just give me a quick second here, I still have half a cup of coffee. I may have to stop for some tea, but we're gonna jump back into this game now. By way of introduction, I did cover this game back when it was first released on Epic, and Mohawk gave me the key for that. But it's also fair to say that when it came to Steam, which I believe Hooded Horse was responsible for, there's a really interesting story in terms of, well, I think it's an interesting story in terms of how this game came to be. Maybe I'll share a little bit in terms of what I understand for it. But in any case, Hooded Horse was the one I believe who was responsible for bringing it onto Steam, and then since then I've also been given keys to Sacred and the Profane, which is the most recent DLC. If you had a copy of Old World when it came out on Steam, or if you bought one when it first came out on Steam, you'd get a copy of Heroes of the Aegean. But it's fair to say here that I have been given a copy of the game, more than one copy if you think about it, for promotional purposes, and it's the sort of thing you want to disclose right away. Another quick programming note, I did just want to say I noticed that with a number of Windows updates, my voice volume has slowly been decreasing over time. So I boosted it by about 50% from what it was, I suspect, on Friday. I have no idea how noticeable this is or not, but hopefully that'll balance things out. So that's all the sort of housekeeping. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit about. So here's my. I don't know if this has ever been like fully stated out in one full version, but my understanding of this game. Once upon a time, this was called 10 Crowns. That's when I first found out about it. I really enjoyed Off-World Trading Company. I also think Soren Johnson is an interesting figure who's worth following. I like his podcast for Idle Thumbs called Designer Notes. For those of you who are not familiar with him as a designer, he worked on Civilization 3, Civilization 4. He did a component for Spore. I believe he worked for Zynga for a period of time, although I'm not 100% sure what he did for that. And then I think after that founded Mohawk Games, and of course Mohawk Games was the one, their first release was Off-World Trading Company. Really wonderful game. It's one I wish I streamed more, but there's a couple things that made that a little less. I want to be careful about it. There were circumstances specific to the time that I streamed it, which may not be representative of the broader community, but it did make it something I was reluctant to stream again. And it just was regarding the way people behaved in the chat. And again, given that Mohawk has put a lot of effort into making number one, making a really good place to work on its own, and I've had nothing but enjoyment interacting with people over Old World. I definitely do not want to paint Off-World or Mohawk with that broad brush, but it's just one of these things, right, where one negative experience can kind of stop something that would otherwise be enjoyable going through. But I do want to be clear. I really, really like Off-World Trading Company a lot. It's definitely one of these games that I enjoyed playing on my own time and didn't stream, like a couple of other games. But in the case of Off-World Trading Company, that's also one which I believe is free to play as a multiplayer game now. And if you want to play the single-player campaign, which I certainly enjoy, and it's the way that I sort of primarily played the game, to be honest, That's the part that you pay for, and I do think it's absolutely worth paying for. But in any case, I was obviously primed to find out what the next game was, and I remember that there was a talk that Johnson gave at GDC sort of about the inheritance of various games. There's a fun anecdote about baseball and Dota, which I quite liked in that talk. And I'm trying to remember specifically where I found out about 10 Crowns, but it was originally going to be published by Starbreeze, and I'm sure some of you who like to follow this stuff, Starbreeze had some financial difficulties, and I believe the game was very much in limbo. But one way or another, and this is one of these cases where I always got a little annoyed with the way people were talking about the Epic Games Store. I'm pretty sure what had happened here was Epic came in and essentially bought the rights from Starbreeze, so they needed the cash. I don't know if Old World would have happened if it was tied up in Starbreeze at the time. I don't know if anybody can really say that for sure, but yeah, one way or another, Epic, I believe, put in some money to make sure that it was on their storefront, which is why it was released on the Epic Store first. And my guess here, probably what happened would be that this game is now published by Hooded Horse, and while I've never seen a statement to this effect, my guess is probably that Epic is really not in the business of, you know, acquiring the rights for games so that they can be released on other storefronts. So that at least would be inconsistent with what's happened on other titles. So I suspect here the idea would just be, you know, we want to be made whole for this thing that we've done, so that you can bring it out. Hooded Horse, I think, very rightly saw that this was an opportunity. They're a really interesting publisher. They put out a lot of great strategy and RPG games. RPG games. What does the G stand for? But in any case here, it seemed, as with anything, right? I suppose I don't like using the stock market as an example all the time, but it is a very clear case where an asset can be a good acquisition at a given price and a very poor one at another price. And in this case here, at least from the interviews with Hooded Horse, it seems to be that this game has done quite well. It certainly merited multiple DLC. I think as a game, it's a lot of fun, and it's continued to be a lot of fun for a very long time. And I'm happy. The thing that I like about it is that I'm happy that Epic seemed to step in at a time that this game needed it. But as a whole, I am happy that that Hooded Horse came in, because this obviously means that many more people are able to play this game than might have been the case if it was an Epic exclusive. And I think if you're a fan of a game, that's the one thing you really probably want more than anything. There's always that time. This was never the case for Old World, but I know for some games, if you're part of a small group. I just got a bunch of copyright strikes for Old World. I suspect probably here this is one of the earlier ones. So actually, as an aside, for those of you who are broadcasters, this is your good friend, and if you're not a broadcaster, absolutely turn this option off, because there's wonderful, wonderful music in this, and sadly we don't get to see all of it. Actually, it's something related to music. That's the reason why I really wanted to play this, but I figured it would be nice to just catch up for a little bit before really jumping into it. But yeah, as I was saying, like, you know, especially if you find something really niche, whether it's like a TV show or a you know, a game or whatever, sometimes there's that nice little camaraderie, right? You have the secret knowledge that, you know, nobody else has, and you were in there early. And I do get disappointed sometimes online when you see something like that and it becomes a little bit more popular, or even a lot more popular, and people become very protective of something that they thought was just for them. And it's a shame, because obviously if you really enjoy something, it's nice to have more people share it. A weird one for me, actually, was I really liked Black Mirror because I liked Charlie Brooker's writing, like his articles, and I also liked his Screen Wipe and Weekly Wipe and stuff like that. Now, I've not seen the Netflix ones because I only ever saw the ones that were broadcast, I think it was on ITV. And the one disappointment out of it is that, Black Mirror is popular enough now that people kind of mock it a little bit, where it was actually, like, it's my kind of sci-fi, right? I think it's pretty clever. I like the idea that it's an anthology series and stuff like that. So that's maybe a little bit disappointing that it's reached a level of popularity where people kind of sneer at it in a way that maybe they wouldn't have in the first couple of seasons. But overall, I don't know. Like, I hope it's not a widespread thing. I know I feel very sad every time I see it, but to see, it's always, to me at least, even if it means as a broadcaster, I lose a monopoly on, on this lesser known game. Again, not really talking about Old World here so much as others. It's just really nice when you have other people who like a game, especially because it means that the people who have created it are finally seeing the reward for what they did. And that was very much the case. I feel, I feel like Old World. I feel like Old World was enjoyed by the people who played it from the start. But I was really heartened by the Steam release because it really feels like a lot of people recognize this game for being interesting and worth playing. So. Some of the reasons why I want to go back to this. Now, way back in the end of 2022, I upgraded my computer, and I didn't exactly have to, but I did decide that I was going to do more or less an entire sweep of the computer, like install Windows 11 from nothing, just clean slate for everything. And unfortunately, I don't believe the scenarios are. I don't believe they are saved in cloud. So this means, the learn to play, the learn by playing, all of these things are not open to me. So in the case of, I think we got up to Rise of Macedon and Rise of Rome for Rise of Carthage. So in addition to the Apple, it was an Apple classical thing that made me want to play Old World, but I figured it wouldn't be bad for me to get back to the Rise of Carthage campaign, especially because I feel like I learned a few things through the last time I played Old World, and maybe it would be interesting to try and go up to game 4, see if we can run it through. Absolutely no promises we're going to go from 1 to 4 in all one game, but I think it would be interesting to give this a shot. So, Game 1, Oxhide, found the nation of Carthage in this history-inspired campaign. Queen Dido lands on the shores of North Africa with her followers, having fled the Phoenician city of Tyre, where Dido's brother murdered her husband. Thus begins Carthage, a small colony that will have to strengthen its economy and defenses, and carve out a place for itself in history. Can you survive as a newly founded colony and set it on the path to greatness? Rules for Game 1. Start with only the divination technology. No starting military unit. Military units that cost training require longer to produce. You may not build wonders. Settlers rapidly increase in cost as you build more, so choose your city sites carefully. And you may not enter into a tribal alliance. Olaf, great to see you. I'm slightly curious here. Okay, so we can do Hanno, Dido, or Hannibal. I don't feel like I'm quite ready to do Hannibal yet. So we'll settle for the middle difficulty. Looks like you've had to do more modding duties. I should deputize you here to bring this rabble under control. I hope you're doing really well, my good man. Alright, Oxhide. After Queen Dido of the Phoenician city of Tyre discovered that her brother murdered her husband, Dido fled Tyre and led a colonial expedition to the shores of North Africa. There, a local ruler told Dido that she may settle her people on land that only an ox hide will cover. After cutting the hide into strips, she spent the day laying the strips at the corners of an area large enough to support a fledgling colony. Thus begins the history of Carthage, which means new city in Phoenician. In order to seize control of its destiny, the city must grow wealthy and strong. From humble beginnings, a new power will emerge if the leadership can accomplish its goals. There is much work to do. Welcome to the Carthage campaign. Each scenario in the campaign comes with its own goals. In the first scenario, you have 12 goals awaiting discovery, and you will have a century, 100 turns in which to pursue them. Oh yeah, actually, sorry, I was talking about 10 crowns originally, and I never really finished. The 10 crowns, I believe, was supposed to be 10 generations, but I don't think it ever quite turned out that way. But anyways, that's a conversation for another time. Okay, each scenario in the campaign comes with its own goals. In the first scenario, you have 12 goals awaiting discovery, and you will have a century, 100 turns in which to pursue them. Completing 6 goals gets you a bronze victory, 8 goals gets you a silver victory, and 10 goals are required for a gold victory. Each game in the campaign has its own pacing, events, and special rules. You can view the detailed rules at any time by opening the victory screen with F1. Rules for Oxhide. Start with divination, no starting military units. Military units that cost training require longer to produce. You may not build wonders. Settlers rapidly increase in cost as you build more. And you may not enter into tribal alliances. So focus on completing goals in order to win. Got it. Now, one challenge here is that I feel a bit bad about. Losing this because I don't know if I'll be able to do it again. But I did get some of the higher level difficulties. Let me just see where we're at because I got a few of these here. I mean, I have I have skill. I have achievements here which I feel are probably less than what I could achieve now. But what was it? It was epic victory. Yeah, so we have an epic victory for both Carthage 1 and Carthage 2. Hello, Takri. How you doing? And yeah, no, completely understandable. I actually feel particularly bad whenever I talk to you, Olaf, because I know you very often watch the stream during a WoW dungeon, but I don't want to completely take you for granted either, so... Alright. So first things first, we found a city, and I'm gonna have... So, as is always the case with Old World for me, there's a few things that I want to do. So one, I want to try and be a little bit more deliberate in my choices and movements. So where I can, I would like to, I'd like to make deliberate choices that give me, give me a better understanding about what I'm playing and what I'm trying to do. I would like to try and focus on some of the things that I struggle with in the main game. This is one of the reasons why I sometimes up the difficulty a little bit past what would normally be comfortable for me, and because it's a very good way of me avoiding complacency. And one example here would be I could, found in the city site, which is a fine city site, but it's always kind of helpful to take a look at the other tiles that I can get. And I notice here that I can grab this marble in addition to basically everything else that I have. So I'll lose this one C tile, but it seems to me like the marble's worth it. So we'll move over to the edge here. And we've got the choice of a founding group. So we've got the Barkid. This will get me 2 military a year, which kind of offsets the delay on... military unit production. New mounted units start with Saddleborn. Family seat can build units that require horses, camels, or elephants. So even if I don't have access to those. Now, it looks like this is horses. So we should have access to horses as long as we sort of move down here. And then we gain a scout automatically. Alternatively, we could found the artisans, the Maganid. Now this will give me 4 culture a year, which will help me grow faster. New siege ship units start with ingenuity. Mines and lumber mills get 20% extra output. Minus 2 years to build urban improvements, and we get a worker for this. Now, I believe we already start with a worker for the first colony that we found. It's a little tempting with the woods, although not completely, because there aren't these full little pyramids we can design with the. This is about the closest we could get, but still a possibility. We have the Hananid traders, so new workers start with surveyor. Nets give 100% extra output, so that would, I believe that would count for the dyes here as well as the fish. One touch I really like, by the way, for the animations for the fish is not just the fish, but the seagulls. What else do we have? 5 gold a year for specialist, unlocks caravan access, new court merchant. And then finally the Dodonians, statesmen, 1 order a year, minus 25% specialist resource costs, 1 extra civics per year per family opinion level, and unlocks decree. So looking at this, I would figure either the Hananid or the Maganid would be the two big priorities, and both have their own logic here, right? So we do have, I mean, this would be a quarry, but we've got an option for a mine as well as lumber mills here. I think I'm more inclined to choose the Magonids this time around. Okay, now the game here is recommending ironworking for the warriors. Now this does make sense in its own way, but it is also worth remembering that warriors take a long time in this particular scenario. So for farmland, I guess we could get a small bonus by building one here. And then ironworking would give us access to labor force and husbandry. Okay, so that's useful to us in that regard. We don't have stone cutting yet. Can't really take advantage of trapping yet. Administration potentially gives us a free worker, would lead us eventually to rhetoric. So yeah, ironworking does make the most sense because of its access to husbandry. Okay, so let's put our people to work. So I have a few options here. I can build up the iron resources, although I'm already getting one of those a turn. I can get the growth from the nets, which is probably the thing I want the most. I'm very reluctant to be chopping down trees right now, so I need to think more carefully about that. Yeah, for now, let's settle for the non-destructive. Oh, hang on. This makes a heck of a lot more sense. And the nets. I don't hate the extra culture. Okay, and I'm gonna start moving towards a city site here. So this is, I mean, in a funny sense, the Barkids may not make the most sense here because this has access to elephants. On the other hand, I do believe they work well with camps. So, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Okay, but I think that's everything that we want to do this turn, so we're gonna go on to the next one. Breakout. Years after the founding of Carthage, Queen Dido ended her life rather than be forced into marriage to a tribal chieftain. For many long decades, the new city was forced to pay tribute to local tribes for use of the land. The city's ideal position at the center of the Mediterranean Sea has afforded it many economic opportunities. Trading ships traveling between Tyre and Phoenician colonies in the Iberia region, in Iberia, began to make regular stops in Carthage. Immigrants flowed into the growing colony. Within its first century, new city swelled to over 30,000 population. Now, after the passing of 4 generations, Carthage has erected city walls and refused to pay its tributes any longer. Malchus, the bold new king of Carthage, has seized lands of the tribes closest to the city, uniting the region into an ancient metropolis. Soon as the city's wealth grows, it will even be able to hire mercenary fighters from the surrounding tribes. And our first goal is to research 2 technologies. Okay. I'm going to keep exploring. We discovered Lake Tritonus. Also, it occurred to me I could have been picking up the resources by visiting those resource sites. Anyways, neither here nor there. Chosen child. In the ruins of a decaying rune-carved temple, your scouts discover a dying priestess and a young child. With her final words, she entreats the scouts to bring you the child, saying he is destined to change the world. We can adopt the child as my own. Pygmalion the Bless, adopted by King Malachus, descendant of Dido, -4 legitimacy. Or I have no interest in mysterious children. Warning! As citizens from Carthage approach the land of the Libyans, one of their hunting parties rides towards to parley. One hunter gestures broadly as she speaks. You may control the land near your city now, where you are able to run and hide behind your walls whenever you wish. All of our warriors ride into battle. Do not venture into our lands, nor set your eyes upon what belongs to us, for your walls cannot save you out here. So we can offer a gift of money. We can agree not to covet their lands and resources, or warn them that Carthage is a mighty nation now and will no longer cower before the threats of primitive tribesmen. Probably not the smartest thing for me to do early, but I don't like the idea of paying the bribe, and I don't like the idea of dropping my legitimacy, so... Okay, we can assign a governor to Carthage. Now, one thing I've used to do was assign my... almost just because I thought it felt, I don't know, it felt good to do this. I don't think there's actually a good strategic reason for doing so. But I used to always assign the faction leader as the governor. And it's not necessary that I do that. So in this case here, I'm going to try and be a little bit more careful in terms of where I... Now, it is a diplomat, so that's actually not that different from Dido, now that I think of it. Yeah, so the Libyans are... They don't love us, but they're not enraged. But anyways, let's see what we can... Well, if I put Malachus on the as governor, we do get the extra growth, so I do prefer that option. Okay, so we have 2 orders left. It's honestly a tough call here, because it's not like I want to move... Well... Yeah, okay. I don't think it hurts to claim the city site, so... Vanguard Master, how you doing? So just like Canadian Parliament, you can diplomatically tell them to suck eggs. I don't believe Canadian Parliament diplomatically says that at all. I think it's actually kind of embarrassing the way that our politicians tend to talk to each other. But how are you doing, Vanguard Master? I hope your project is going well. Okay, I don't think there's that much more for me to do at this point, so we'll put you to sleep. Okay, so now I need to start making some choices about where I put things. A mine definitely makes some sense. But now I need to be a little bit more thoughtful in terms of where I place the other upgrades. So I'm thinking if I have to put a farm down somewhere, over here might be a little bit better. So I'm going to start by seeing what urban improvements I have. Looks pretty lame, actually. So the Shrine of Melkart, plus 20% for adjacent nets. Shrine of Astarte gives us extra growth and a bonus to pastures. Eshman gives us adjacent groves, and Tanit gives us acolytes. Wait, we already have acolytes. Okay, so adjacent resource is the one I should be looking at. Okay, so I'm going to back off a little bit here. So it would be nice to think about where I can put the shrine. So for instance, can I get more than one pasture down, for instance? Or is there a shrine that I can put down that will give me more than one what am I trying to say? Put down a shrine that'll like give me take advantage of more than one pasture, let's say. I think probably what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put down the shrine to Astarte, because it will give me a bonus for the pasture when I build it, but it also counts as an urban tile, so there's going to be lumber mills built here. There will be... I'm not 100% sure what I'm building at this point yet. But it does seem to be sort of a natural extension of the urban centers, and then we still have sort of urban expansion all sort of in this area here. So you'll notice here, this is me making an effort to try and be a little more thoughtful in terms of how I build out my cities. Although we will want an access to stone reasonably soon. I believe there might even be a mission built around that. Well, the important thing to remember, Edgar Master, is they do say Mr. Speaker ahead of time, so there is that level of decorum. It's going rather well. It had a bit of a snag when switching from DirectX 11 to DirectX 12. You had to redo all the landscape layers, but you're finally there, so you can start progressing again. Yeah, I think you were just starting to get hit by those. Do you mind if I ask why you did that switch? Because I seem to remember there was something that you wanted to take advantage of. It might have even been related to like Nanite or something like that. But I remember, like, what I know of, I guess, like, DirectX 12 would be the Microsoft product. Like, I think it's Direct 3D. I can't remember the exact relationship between Direct 3D and DirectX and Vulkan. And I think both of those, their big sort of claim to fame is granting lower-level access, which for developers sounds like a complete pain in the neck, and for players it sounds like a really cool advantage, because of course games just run so much better with that. But obviously, because you're developing a game, you know, you're voluntarily taking on a tougher challenge. And again, I suspect it has nothing to do with what you're doing. I suspect that probably you're not really focusing on the kinds of optimizations that I think of when I hear about people switching either switching or implementing along those lines. But it does mean that I'm a little lost when I hear about the difficulty. I think in the end I'm really just looking for a story about the trade-off. Nanite requires 12. Yeah, okay. Couldn't figure out why your own meshes were still using LODs and not using Nanite. It turns out you made the project. Okay, cool. All right. What else am I trying to do here? I really only have one more order left, but... Okay. A marriage proposal has arrived from the Maganid family for you, King Malachus, descendant of Dido. How shall we respond to their suggestions? I probably should have worked on the proposal in the first place. So we can have a scheming wife with 10 iron, age 23, or also age 23. Wait, is that right? Yeah. Lesser courage, 50 iron. I think probably the wise one works. So Ashtbal of Carthage is the best option. Okay, next year we get settlers that we can put down onto the city site. Next, I'm going to want to think about where my next city site might go, so I might want to take that scout and move over to the left, because obviously the Libyans are not just going to hang out and say, yeah, come take our lands. What tipped you off was you were dropping FPS the more assets you were adding, which wasn't adding up as you had Nadite enabled. Gotcha. I do not own the Library of Alexandria, Aegis Soundir. Although I think you actually might have. Probably we had the biggest discussions in terms of in terms of ancient philosophies and religious themes during Cyberpunk of all things. But in the Sacred and the Profane, they actually properly added Neoplatonism in this one. So Ammonius Saccas and Plotinus appear in it, and you can in fact have the Neoplatonist trait for your character. I will note actually that I ordered a translation of the Enneads. I have a Neoplatonic reader, so I've got fragments of the Enneads along with the Iamblichus and Proclus. I think there might be some of Porphyry in it as well. But in any case, I decided Lloyd Gerson at University of Toronto edited sort of a big, major retranslation of the Enneads, which for those of you who are not familiar, Neoplatonism is this interesting... So the reason why I bring this up is the Sacred and the Profane. Is this really interesting sort of... I'm hesitant to call it this last hurrah of philosophy, but it's hard to see it as... Like, it really does feel like it was the last big sort of Western movement in what you would kind of consider the ancient period. The next thing would be, medieval philosophy, people like, Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and such. But in one sense, it's this synthesis of everything that kind of had come before, while at the same time, like, don't think it would be wrong to sort of call Plotinus this sort of major figure comparable to a Plato in his own regard. But again, you don't necessarily see Neoplatonism discussed in quite the same way that you would sort of hear maybe a discussion of like Plato or Aristotle. Again, I'm saying this sort of as a lay person. It may be that what I'm saying is utterly ridiculous to a group of experts. But obviously it's one... In fact, I think there was an argument, I don't know how widely believed this is, but there is an argument that it was Neoplatonism that made Christianity more acceptable to sort of the upper classes in the Roman Empire, that with the introduction of the ideas of Neoplatonism among this sort of educated elite, that this sort of underground sect, this thing that you wouldn't normally associate with sort of the upper crust, these ideas became a bit more palatable. Again, I have no... I'm not in a position to sort of measure the validity of the claim. Obviously, there's a number of different political dimensions in terms of Christianity and the Roman Empire. But it's an interesting thought. And I also know that despite what some would consider to be similarities with Gnosticism, if you notice, the Neoplatonists actually kind of go out of their way to criticize the Gnostics. However, some people observe that it's more of a personality-based argument, that it may be that those authors are not actually addressing a properly stated list of beliefs, so much as the fact that they met a bunch of jerks in this one region, and they're more responding to how these people were behaving as opposed to some sort of systematic refutation of a system of thought. And again, I've definitely not read. It might even just be called Against the Gnostics, but in any case, I've not read that work, so I couldn't tell you offhand, and I actually, frankly, couldn't tell you that much about Gnosticism either. But I do not own it yet. Sorry, I got to think now what you were referring to, Baggermaster. It's all based on those secrets revealed by the mystics that speak Sanskrit, the language of the gods, note the lower case. Yes, actually, I know we talked about this too, the idea of how many ideas traveled from east to west. And I think particularly in the case of Ammonius Saccas, there is a question in terms of how much of his teaching was actually inspired from Eastern thinkers. Carthaginian paganism founded in Carthage. A new court scholar, Nazma, has joined the court. Her curiosity and insight will aid Carthage in unraveling the mysteries of the world. Nazma is a court scholar. Welcome, Nazma, the scientist. So that'll help us with our goal of achieving 2 techs. Oh, the Library of Alexandria, yeah. I'm pretty sure, given that we are not Alexander of Macedon, he's in the other DLC, we will probably not be founding Alexandria, but who knows? Okay, so let's think about our city sites. So it seems to me wherever I go, I'm able to take advantage of nets for... yes, I'm able to take advantage of the nets wherever I am. This is slightly more appealing to me because it brings me closer to the mountains, which will be good for getting stone. I probably shouldn't do the Magonids because of skipping a family seat. There's a funny near-identical pronunciation, Sastra and... sorry, I need to know the accents, but these words respectively mean scripture and sword or weapon. Oh, interesting. So the pen, we can state this mathematically. The pen is equal to or mightier than the sword. Okay, so... a Barcid seat... Family cities get 2 extra military a year. They always count as connected. New mounted units start with Saddleborn. We can build units that require horses, camels, or elephants, which, again, will already have access to the horses and elephants, so that's not as important here. We get an extra scout, which would be nice. Our alternative would be to... so if I was going to go for the traders, it would have been better for Carthage. So the Didonians would give me extra orders. So I've got to be honest with you. There's no particularly strong argument for founding the Didonian seat here. Save for the fact that if I'm going to take advantage of... if I'm going to be taking advantage of the Barcid benefits, presumably I don't want to do it on a site which already has access to elephants, right? So let's try this here. Monarchy. Phoenician culture is one primarily of commerce, as envisioned by Queen Dido, who is now worshipped as a goddess. Carthage is ruled by monarchs, leading merchants whose skills keep the economy growing and the culture thriving serve in the court. As the city of Hadrimentum is founded, this civilization can no longer be viewed as a city-state. Leaders of the most prominent families come forward to present their ideas on how best to further Carthaginian expansion. Only the monarch personally can choose the path Carthage will follow. So for the artisans, they want to improve 5 tiles, or for the statesmen, they want to contact 2 tribes. Now, it shouldn't actually be that hard to contact 2 tribes. So I guess the question is, do we go for the easy stuff or do we go for the We'll go for easy. Okay, so the next question is, what do we want to do with our city? We'll start with a fissure. Let's go for growth first. Now, Hadramentum, we don't really have any military units available to us yet, so we can do decree for orders, a festival. Yeah, we don't really have anything available to us. Let's start with a worker. And I don't believe we get to set a governor. Yeah, we would need a garrison stronghold or a citadel, so we're going to have to wait a while on that. Okay, now our temple is done. I'm going to have to think. So, you know, I kind of kicked the can down the road, but I am actually going to have to make some decisions in terms of what I want to put on the ground next. This is a big argument for... there's a big argument for putting a specialist in this mine so that we can add quarry here. Although we'll also get some adjacency bonuses from the quarries in this spot. Oh, I have some ideas actually. So we'll chop these down for wood first so that they can grow back. Imlis, the commander, has converted to Carthaginian paganism. Personal religion. Although Carthage has no state religion, many people follow their own faiths and practices. Carthaginian pagan priests of Carthage say that the support of the gods will only strengthen your rule and offer to teach you about their ways. Will you accept? So we can refuse or accept. I think we will become Carthaginian pagan. Okay, let's again cycle through our options. So exploration's kind of the key for me right now. Although I do also want to achieve the exploration. Alright, unfair treatment. An emissary from the Numidians rides forth under a banner of truce. The Libyan tribes near your city had been fools to ignore your growing wealth and power. Their tribute demands were harsh. They have paid their price for treating you unfairly. We respect that you have earned your place in this land. Now, yet, we are still the elders here. Show us the respect that we are due, and our two peoples can live together as neighbors. So we can pay larger tribute in iron to secure a more stable peace. We can pay a smaller tribute in money, or we can refuse to pay tribute. And in this case, my expansion is probably going to be built from conquering the Numidians. So I think I'm going to refuse the tribute here. Two tribes contacted. As desired by the Didonian family, we have established diplomatic contact with both major local groups of tribes. So, excellent. We are on our way to becoming a respected nation. Okay, back to work. So what I want to do here is, if I'm not careful, I'm gonna deforest the whole area and have nothing to show for it. But I do want to get some early harvesting in here. I don't want to completely remove the trees. But what I want to do here is I do want to get the benefit of the wood so I can build some other resources. I still need to figure out things like where I put pastures and all of these other concerns, but that's a good start for now. This is the only other unit available to me. I think I might put a mine down here. It's not the most important thing I could be building at the moment, but I at least get the adjacency bonus. Okay, we don't really have any other orders left anyway, so... Matriarch Imilce, the commander, is now head of Carthaginian paganism. Their opinion of you has gone from cautious to pleased. Scared to take any risks or even make mistakes, Queen Consort Arishbal, your wife has become timid. Okay, so we have a few options here. I see stone cutting, which is probably the number one that I want to be... Yeah, I'm not even considering anything else. We need stone cutting. That'll also give us access to a fort and a quarry, but the quarry is the big one that I want. Okay, to date, Carthage has followed the example of the motherland of the great Phoenician city of Tyre, using wealth alone to control our destiny. Yet Tyre resides at one end of the vast Mediterranean Sea, while Carthage sits astride the middle of the sea. From this position, the most profitable trade routes pass through Carthaginian waters, while naval power could be projected to anywhere. The future will belong to the greatest naval power, for who can imagine anyone being able to harm an empire who cannot be defeated at sea? Armies could not even reach us. Building the largest, most skilled, most powerful navy will be the key to our ascension. So our goal here is to construct 3 biremes. I notice that this is not a timed goal, but it is one that it's one I definitely want to work on. And labor. Carthage controls more land than it did just a decade ago, yet much of it lies unused. There is a need for more workers so that more of our land may be put to productive use. Sea snails that Tyre used to produce dyes are also found near our shores, or will help our warriors, and there is fertile land for farms as well. Alright, so we've got our work cut out for us. 5 years before we can do stone cutting, so I need to think a little bit about where I'm making improvements. Yeah, that's not helpful. The Shrine of Tanit, I think, makes a ton of sense here. Actually, yeah. Puts me short on stone, but... We've discovered the Ores Mountains. I could try and harvest the camel. Oh no, I definitely want to go. Definitely want to go there. Oh, Malchus? How you doing? Steve's nuts. So this perfection outside this material world is referring to Valkuntha, basically meaning no worries or Hakuna Matata. Oh, that's a nice way of bringing the two threads together. We can send the matriarch of... yes. Okay. No, there's actually a few good ideas here. I can convert some of the... So the Didonians are the ones who like us the least, so let's start by converting Oligarch Matan. And I think we'll leave it there. It's getting a little scary stone-wise, but again, we need 5 years for stone cutting, and then we'll be able to build, at minimum, a quarry for the marble, and then probably we'll be able to follow that up with some other quarries. Alright, let's get the camels. And for some reason, I completely ignored the event, so let's try that again. Star charts. Our explorers discover a cache of yellowed star charts in the ruins. The former inhabitants must have been a tribe of great navigators. Who should receive these charts? So we could get 5 extra orders and a new scout. A new scout is actually really tempting in this case. Or our astronomers are in need of inspiration, in which case we get a new court scholar. Now, the court scholar would be good because it helps me with my overall goal for adopting the 2 technologies. But in this case, I think I'm going to take the extra scout because that stops me from... What that does is that stops me from having to dedicate a city to build that particular unit. So, now we harvest the camels. Alright, that's our first point of expansion here. We don't need to go to war with the Numidians, we can just fight the barbarians. Now, we get to hire nomads, which will help me out in terms of taking out barbarian encampments. Matriarch Imlis the Commander has successfully converted Oligarch Matan of Hadramentum to a religion, and Oligarch Matan converts... Okay, same event, just said two different ways. Okay, so the shrine is under construction. I don't want to build a mine here because this is going to be a lumber mill at some point. Let's chop down some more trees. I'll figure out what to do with you later. Let's get the scouts to focus on exploration. Okay, this one I want to be a little more careful. Ooh, we don't actually have that much space left. Okay, well, that settles that. I was going to try and build something different, but in this case, we'll build another scout in anticipation of claiming that barbarian encampment. Aegis says, the teachings I follow are very cautious to bring us into Visuddha Tattva, and my apologies for pronunciations here, thatness before this Suddha Bhava mood. The prefix V indicates special. We want the topmost spiritual perfection rather than any other lack of worry, which would be detrimental to the pace of our inevitable advancement that we are destined to make. So, if I could paraphrase here, is the idea here that you sort of need to take care of your, let's say, emotional state, for lack of a better term, before you can focus a little bit more on contemplation and sort of this... I'm trying not to simply restate what you're saying here, but essentially the higher thoughts, I suppose, would be the better. Although even if I say higher thoughts, I know in some cases people would refer to that higher perfection as lack of thought. So maybe even then I'm abusing the terms here. But hopefully I've picked up what you're trying to say here. All right, we have discovered Sicily. Zushan the herbalist has converted to Carthaginian paganism, and the Didonian family is converted to Carthaginian paganism. So, I do actually want to send the head of the religion to do a few more conversions. So, let's bring the Magonids on side. There's this quip, good karma, bad karma. It's all unwanted because it binds us to this material contamination. You know I've said this before, but this is actually one image that I've not been able to get out of my head. Takri has heard me tell a very, very silly story, which relies on a little bit of wordplay, and I've since adopted this dualist cosmology for this bit of wordplay. But for those of you, this will be unfamiliar to some. Again, I don't know, and actually I'm going to rely on Wikipedia to explain this. But just, again, because of the sorts of readings that, particularly the Sacred and the Profane DLC for this game inspired in me, I have been reading a bit more of my Hellenistic philosophy and a little bit around that. And so inevitably that leads me to Gnosticism. This also sort of folds into Cultus Simulator as well, because I was reading up on the Mandeans, and for those of you who may not be familiar with the Mandeans, this is possibly one of the oldest Gnostic sects, but definitely one of the last surviving ones. In this case, in fact, I'll get I'm trying to remember the exact terms said here. So, Mandeanism, sometimes also known as Nazareanism or Sabianism, is a Gnostic, monotheistic, and ethnic religion. Its adherents, the Mandeans, revere Adam, Abel, Seth, Enos, Noah, Shem, Aram, and especially John the Baptist. Mandeans consider Adam, Seth, Noah, Shem, and John the Baptist prophets, with Adam being the founder of the religion, and John being the greatest and final prophet. And then the one line I was just going to take here: the Mandeans speak an Eastern Aramaic language known as Mandiac. So for those of you who've played Cultist Simulator, you'll know that there is Deep Mandiac, which is an invented language. But in this case here, it is a reference to the Mandean people and the religion. Again, just when you... It's like anything, right? When you start reading up on a particular subject, you can, inevitably you start kind of going off into all of these different little, different little trains of thought, which can, it can make for some interesting reading. But what I was particularly interested in here, and again, this is just me being a completely way too sarcastic in this, but sometimes it's fun to use humor to imagine this. So I'm going under, again, this is just Wikipedia here, but characteristics, cosmology. The Syrian Egyptian traditions, this is for Gnosticism, postulate a remote supreme godhead, the monad, from the highest divine emanate, this highest divinity emanate lower divine beings known as aeons. The demiurge, one of those aeons, creates the physical world. Divine elements fall into the material realm and are locked within human beings. This divine element returns to the divine realm when gnosis, esoteric or intuitive knowledge of the divine element within, is obtained. So again, you can sort of see why this stuff can sometimes be interesting to people who are fond of some of the stuff that I'm into, right? You can definitely see where the parallels with a game like Cultist Simulator would come in. And again, Gnostic systems postulated dualism between God and the world, varying from the radical dualist systems of Manichaeanism. Mani is also in the sacred and the profane, incidentally, to the mitigated dualism of classic Gnostic movements. Radical dualism or absolute dualism posits two co-equal divine forces, while in mitigated dualism, one of the two principles is in some way inferior to the other. In qualified monism, the second entity may be a divine or semi-divine. Valentinian Gnosticism is a form of monism expressed in terms previously used in dualistic manner. So anyways, the reason why I was bringing all of this up is that you have this idea, right, where you have the monad, the supreme good, let's say. And one step below, you've got the demiurge, and in Christian Gnosticism, you have this, actually, I think this idea that the God of the Old Testament is the demiurge, whereas the one in the New Testament is this higher one, closer to the one. And again, just to be clear here, there's a very long and complicated intellectual history going back on all of this stuff. So there's influence from the Pythagoreans, for instance. It's something very, very similar to this, like, I don't know, you had, the monad... there's an intermediate point between that, and then there was like the point as in the geometric point, and then from geometric points you get lines, and then you sort of build out from that. So again, anytime I try to summarize this stuff, it's always going to be a very poor approximation. But the thing I love the most is because there is this idea of sort of this inferior material world, and that as a consequence, the demiurge is not necessarily seen in this particularly good light. I've always loved this idea of the demiurge being this really frustrated, creative force, which is really tired of all of these enlightened mystics backseating its work. These people who've never once made a material plane in their lives, criticizing this difficult work that they're doing. But yeah, obviously this is the Hitchhiker's Guide version of cosmology as opposed to something actually reflecting the traditions. And sorry, I should get back to the game, but he just says, the first understanding is to know that we constitutionally are in a spiritual soul, but this teaching must come with the understanding to not falsely renounce the gift of material body that we have been given, which can be dovetailed. Gotcha. Okay, 2 years before stone cutting, so I do want to start moving towards the quarry. I think we can do this. There we go. I don't believe I can buy this skirmisher because they are on a tile. I could probably buy this marauder though. Yeah, it empties my treasury, but I've got 5 moves left. I like money. I'm gonna stay put here because if I move outside of trees, then this unit's gonna come and attack me. And then I want this unit a little more focused on the left-hand side here. So again, I'm trying to think about expansion. I do at some point want to be moving these military units that I've gained to move onto this barbarian territory. Oh, interesting. We can actually buy the skirmisher from the barbarians too. We'll probably do that. And then I want to be building a settler to sort of move in and claim what will be my 3rd location. That'll probably be a Barcid seat, but we'll see. I wouldn't be opposed to building a warrior at some point because it's it would be nice to have something that I can put my generals on, but let's build this settler first. A golden age, and we are going to read the text. Actually, what I am going to do first. Now we'll read the wiki entry. I may not. Where did I first source Demiurge from? So this would be. I mean, what I was reading essentially was the Wikipedia article on Gnosticism. So I originally knew of Gnosticism as a Christian sect, but from what I understand, it is not. I don't know if it has its origins as a Christian sect or if it was one that had a. I'm assuming it's something that's older, and it just happened to be that they were combined. But yeah, the Demiurge. I don't know if that is a formal title that you would see inside of all of the traditions following from this, but there's definitely. I haven't seen an accounting of this which would have anything other than sort of this malevolent or at least highly disliked lesser emanation from sort of the big one, the monad, essentially. Have I heard of Maya? Probably not the term you're referring to. Like, I know of the Mayans, which would be a South Central American indigenous group. But I suspect Maya is probably referring to something. I suspect that's probably a specialized term that you're referring to. Anyways, while Aegis is responding to that, here is the associate. For those of you that are not clear on this, let me bring this up. If you click the little globe in the title, and you can set this if you design your own. If you design your own events for Old World, it'll give you a link. Often Wikipedia, but not exclusively. So, 5th century Athens. 5th century Athens is a Greek city-state. Is the Greek city-state Athens in the time from about 480 to 404 BC, formerly known as the Golden Age of Athens. The latter part being the Age of Pericles. It was buoyed by political hegemony, economic growth, and cultural flourishing. The period began in 478 BC after the defeat of the Persian invasion, when an Athenian-led coalition of city-states known as the Delian League confronted the Persians to keep the liberated Asian Greek cities free. After peace was made with Persia in the mid-5th century BC, what started as an alliance of independent city-states became an Athenian empire after Athens abandoned the pretense of parity among its allies and relocated the Delian League treasury from Delos to Athens. where it funded the building of the Athenian Acropolis, put half of its population on the public payroll, and maintained its position as the dominant naval power in the Greek world. With the empire's funds, military dominance, and its political fortunes guided by statesman and orator Pericles, Athens produced some of the most influential and enduring cultural artifacts in the Western tradition. The playwrights Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides all lived and worked in 5th century BC Athens, as did the historians Herodotus and Thucydides, the physician Hippocrates, and the philosophers Plato and Socrates. Athens' patron goddess was Athena, from whom it derived the name. And I'd love to read more and more of this, but I'm going to try and keep these digressions a little bit shorter so that I can make progress through it. You'd just like to point out... So Vanguard says, I would just like to point out to any of your old university professors that might be watching that screw all of you for telling me not to use Wikipedia to research things, that I wouldn't amount to anything in the real world if I used it. Same with your high school teachers that are watching System Shock. So, okay, actually, I am going to say one quick thing about that. So I understand why university profs don't like you just focusing on Wikipedia, but I'm going to show you a way that you can profitably use Wikipedia in this sense. So the reason why, so, you know, we've got a similar problem now where people are saying, like, don't use ChatGPT. This isn't going to, you know, it's not going to make you smart. And to a certain extent, it's right. Right? Like, there's the problem where a lot of times we're not necessarily looking for information so much as we're looking for confirmation. And Wikipedia is a really great resource in the sense that it is this nice community effort which everybody sort of makes, contributes what they know, and especially for topics on which there are, very definite right and wrong answers. I think for the most part, people do a pretty good job of verifying the accuracy. So for instance, I haven't seen a lot of mathematics articles that don't have the correct information in it. Yeah, Takri's got it. Yeah, depending on whether or not you're in Oceania or not, Vanguard Master. So the first thing that you pay attention to, right, is this notice up here. This article needs additional citations for verification. Please help improve this article by adding citations to reliable sources. I will add, by the way, please do this. Like, if this, I know sometimes, like, some of you are experts on a bunch of things, and if you find something wrong or something that doesn't seem right, like, this stuff doesn't get better if people aren't willing to make the effort. But Takri has it exactly right. This is great for getting an overview. The same way that, if you read... So it's a little bit like if you read a book on a subject. Not every book written on a subject is created equally, right? If I'm reading some, popular science book, or better still, like Malcolm Gladwell, who I don't really have that high of an opinion on in terms of writing, and I know a lot of people really like his stuff, so the fact that some guy on Twitch says that he doesn't care for Malcolm Gladwell, please don't take that as an indicator that, like, I'm some massive jerk, or that, I may be a jerk for other reasons, but not that one, and, like, don't use it to, like, not enjoy things that you don't like, right? Like, again, I think it's better when people are happier and able to enjoy more things in the world than not. For me, doesn't quite do. Yeah. So here's one for you, Vanguard Master. Are you familiar at all with Lucian, A True Story? Because if not, we are definitely going to make a small digression on this. But yeah, so Vanguard makes an excellent point here. Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit of history with you then. But yeah, so, like, if you cite Herodotus and you cite some of the more incredible stuff that appears inside of Herodotus, maybe you're not going to get a good grade in your natural history exam. It kind of depends. But what is helpful, right? Like if you're going from no knowledge on a subject, and if you're just interested in something, I played Old World and I really want to know more about ancient Greek because it just seems so interesting. What do we do? Or the System Chalk guy talked about the sacred band of Thebes, and I really want to know more about them. Where do I look? Well, you go and you take a look at at Wikipedia, like anybody else. It's foolish not to avail yourself of resources. But the thing that you really want to do, and it's exactly what Takri pointed out, is take a look at the references, either in the citations or in the references, particularly because if there's something that you don't think is right, some of these may not actually say what they claim they do. And at that point, you can help out. Another example that I would take here, right? So I talked a little bit about Plotinus. So so this is another wonderful free resource, but there's an important difference here. So let's, instead of looking at Plotinus, let's actually look up Neoplatonism. So the difference here is that this is a scholarly article. So Wikipedia is not necessarily going to be the same when you look at it 5 years ago versus today. And in the case of the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, it absolutely does change as well. But what you have here instead is you have an expert that has been brought in to write an entry for it, just like any other article. So in this case here, right, you've got the winter 2021 version. There's obviously an earlier version. You can see spring 2016, summer 2019. But if you wanted to learn more about Neoplatonism here you have got a scholar who has written a summary of the kind of this intellectual tradition. It's actually given an essential readings list. So this is the thing that's coming in the mail for me. Well, this and this, because it's all in one volume. It offers some secondary literature. And if you wanted, you could also take a look and say, okay, well, who's Christian Wildberg? Well, in this case, I can tell you they're at Princeton because there's their email. But like, if you want, you can see like, okay, so who is this person? Like, why? How dare they tell me what to think about this subject? I'm almost certain the Plotinus one would be Lloyd Gerson. Let's take a look. Yeah. But this is an example, right, where now you've gone from that initial interest from Wikipedia. You may even wind up finding that there's something similar, inside of this article to the Wikipedia one. But at least here you've got you've got an authority that's writing on the subject, and you sort of have this train of thought, like this chain of reasoning in terms of how this topic has been thought about. And if there's a dispute with a particular source, you're sort of able to sort of say, it's like, okay, so where did you get this idea? So if I say, I don't know, Plotinus had purple hair, right? Well, where did you learn that Plotinus has purple hair? It's like, oh, it's in the Wikipedia article. Okay, so obviously somebody went in and changed the Wikipedia article. And it's like, no, I got it from, the Cambridge Companion to Plotinus, Oh, which edition? The first edition. Ah, yes, okay, well, as you can see, there was a revision to this entry, and it said the wrong color, and, And in this case here, like, you're able to sort of work this sort of stuff out. And this is kind of important, because, again, this brings me back to the popular science stuff. It's not that these books are bad. It's actually really good that you can get people interested in these subjects. And there's lots of different ways to get people into a given subject, up to and including a video game about, let's say, the ancient world. But you do also want to make sure that what's actually being acquired is knowledge, not just anecdotes or something that you can't necessarily you can rely on. So in the case of again, I'm picking on Malcolm Gladwell here, but there's definitely a very high premium for finding cute details and like, you know, little facts that make you popular at cocktail parties, or maybe like overgeneralizing certain papers, which may actually have a genuine discovery, but the discovery is very different from what's being claimed inside of the book. And particularly if these books aren't scrupulously keeping track of what their sources are, it suddenly becomes quite difficult to be able to account for, you know, what's actually the case. And what actually, this is the Neoplatonist reader I have. But yeah, like it can become quite difficult. This is the one that's in the mail. It can be quite difficult to sort of distinguish between these things. And so it's what in the end, what the school instructors are doing, I think their heart's in the right place, but it's a little bit like when you say, you know, correlation doesn't mean causation, right? It's way too simplified of a version to talk about what's actually happening in statistics. We generally don't look for cause in uncorrelated events, right? So clearly there's something there that we're looking for. But you're right, you can't just take a look at two things happening. It's the post hoc fallacy, right? Post hoc ergo propter hoc. You know, one thing happened after another, therefore they caused each other. That's definitely not the way you want to think about things. But you can't just sit down and every single scientific paper you read, you can't sit down and say, well, you know, correlation doesn't mean causation, as if that's like the argument to defeat everything. So yeah, this is kind of the way you go about it. I find for myself, Wikipedia is a wonderful place to get started in interest in a subject. And hopefully what that means is that you follow to the next step and you pick up a book on it, or, you know, you read another source. Again, because I'm talking about philosophy so much, I think the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is a nice place to go. It's not the only source. I just wanted to give it as an example of something that's, you know, that's a, I wonder if they have something on the ancient commentators on Aristotle. Okay, I'm going to bet that this might, so there's one of two people this could be. I'm thinking either Richard Sorabji or Michael Griffin. I know they're not the only two people working on it, but I have a slight feeling it might be one or the other. Nope, Andrea Falcon. All right. I know this because I believe both of those people have been working. Yeah, there's Michael Griffin. 3 citations. And Sorabji. I believe both of them were responsible for the commentary, ancient commentators on Aristotle. Yeah, anyways, this is a really long anecdote, but it's a little bit like the GPT stuff that's being talked about now as well, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with using those tools, but in the end, what you want to do is you want them to point you to something interesting, something that's worth looking into, and you then do the work, right? You want to use them as kind of like training wheels or a leg up, as opposed to a substitute for thinking. Oh, hang on, there was one other thing, which was we had where are we? So Vanguard Master made a funny reference to Herodotus and his gold-digging ants. So, Lucian of Samosata was a Hellenized Syrian satirist, rhetorician, and pamphleteer who is best known for his characteristic tongue-in-cheek style, with which he frequently ridiculed superstition, religious practices, and belief in the paranormal. Although his native language was probably Syriac, all of his extant works are written entirely in ancient Greek, mostly in Attic Greek, a dialect popular during the Second Sophistic period. Everything that is known about Lucian's life comes from his own writings, which are often difficult to interpret due to his extensive use of sarcasm. I relate. But in any case, His most famous work is A True Story, a tongue-in-cheek satire against authors who tell incredible tales, which is regarded by some as the earliest known work of science fiction. So, A True Story, written in the 2nd century AD by Syrian author Lucian of Samosata. The novel is a satire of outlandish tales that had been reported in ancient sources, particularly those that presented fantastic or mythical events as if they were true. It is Lucian's best-known work. It is the earliest known work of fiction to include travel to outer space, alien life forms, and interplanetary warfare. It has been described as the first known text that could be called science fiction. However, the work does not fit into typical literary genres. Its multi-layered plot and characters have been interpreted as belonging to science fiction, fantasy, satire, or parody, and has been the subject of scholarly debate. Here's a summary of the plot. The novel begins with an explanation that the story is not at all true, and that everything in it is a complete and utter lie. The narrative begins with Lucian and his fellow travelers journeying out past the Pillars of Heracles. Blown off course by a storm, they come to an island with a river of wine filled with fish and bears, a marker indicating that Heracles and Dionysus have traveled to this point, and trees that look like women. Shortly after leaving the island, they are caught up by a whirlwind and taken to the moon, where they find themselves embroiled in a full-scale war between Endymion, the king of the moon, and Phaethon, the king of the sun, over colonization of the morning star. Both armies include bizarre hybrid life forms. The armies of the sun win the war by clouding over the moon and blocking out the sun's light. Both parties come to a peace agreement. Lucian describes life on the moon and how it is different from life on Earth. After returning to Earth, the adventurers are swallowed by a 200-mile-long whale, in whose belly they discover a variety of fish people, against whom they wage war and triumph. They kill the whale by starting a bonfire and escape by propping its mouth open. Sound familiar to anybody? Next, they encounter a sea of milk, an island of cheese, and an island of the blessed. There, Lucian meets heroes of the Trojan War, other mythical men and animals, as well as Homer and Pythagoras. They find sinners being punished, the worst of them being the ones who had written books with lies and fantasies, including Herodotus and, Stesias? After leaving the island of the blessed, they discover the letter to Calypso given to them by Odysseus, explaining that he wishes he had stayed with her so that he could have lived eternally. They discover a chasm in the ocean, but eventually sail around it, discover a far-off continent, and decide to explore it. The book ends abruptly with Lucian stating that their further adventures will be described in upcoming sequels, a promise which a disappointed scholiast described as the biggest lie of all. So, as you can see, I relate tremendously to this man. But let's catch up with Aegis, and then we will continue the rise of Carthage, because all of this was intended to describe the Golden Age. But hopefully, Vanguard Master, I have given you a classical work that you can sink your teeth into, because I don't know about you, but I would like to read the entirety of A True Story. All right, Aegis says, yoga and religion have a very close linguistic origin. Latin tigo, meaning ligament, and yoga, meaning connecting. So basically, through loving devotion, we are welcome to join in these transcendental activities beyond the pollution that is a trap set by her, who is a special devotee, maintaining the high standard beyond the false attraction. While I have been speaking very accusatory about the people of Central America, I will refer to what I have made distinct. Made distinct that we are not these material bodies. There is honor in both rising above a fallen condition and not feeling superior to others because of a higher birth. We are all incredibly fortunate to be in Lord... this may not be one that I pronounced correctly. Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu's world, Sanskrit, and movement. Samsara, the Sanskrit word which basically means the playground provided to the soul, which has not yet become attracted to the higher spiritual taste. I should mention, by the way, there's a Ron Fricke film which uses the word in that exact same sense, which is a very good one. It's a sequel to Baraka. And you read somewhere that there might be a plausible explanation regarding those giant ants, though, and supposedly it stems from the fact that Marmont, in whatever dialect Herodotus had heard it, sounds very similar to ant in Greek. It claimed that there were actually marmots that would inadvertently dig up gold while digging their tunnels. and might have led him to believe giant gold digging ant stories. That's interesting. There's a few different versions of things I've heard as well. I've heard, and this may not be in Aristotle, it could be somewhere else, but somebody had suggested that there were some fairly fantastic beasts, like cows with projectile dung, which would burn flesh. Now, needless to say, I haven't found that part in Aristotle yet, so I'm rather disappointed that somebody suggested it was in Aristotle, but it could be there. But yeah, it's definitely... I think one of the... I can't remember if Thucydides explicitly criticized Herodotus or if it was just implicit, but I seem to recall that this was actually a big... this was a big division between Thucydides and Herodotus, and Thucydides felt that there was a duty to sort of be something of a reporter, whereas Herodotus, at least in a broader conception or broader understanding, seems to not to have let a good story get in the way, or not to let the truth get in the way of a good story. And in either case, it does mean that Lucian at least gave us a good satire to work with. All right, for those of you who don't like ancient topics, you're probably not watching anymore, but for those of you who've been waiting for some old world, your time has come. Thank you for your patience. To celebrate the city's cultural accomplishments, the elders of Carthage have declared this year to be the start of a new golden age. They wish to solicit your cooperation in efforts to further grow their influence. How should the city's resources be utilized? We can get extra culture and bring us closer to the next culture event. Host a week of performances and poetry. Recognize the contributions of the state and will gain additional civics, which currently we aren't using. Inspect the treasury for inefficient practices. King Malchus becomes frugal. Lower improvement costs, or halt labor for feasting and festivals. I think we're going to do performances and poetry. And we're at the end of the year, so... Queen Consort Aristbal has converted to Carthaginian paganism. Glory of Carthage, labor. Citizens of Carthage who work the land are everyday heroes. Their toil and sweat will be the foundation of our greatness. Beyond our current borders lie even more lands to seize and use. Okay. I don't have the money to buy up this unit yet. One more day, or one more year before we can work the mine. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave that unit for now. I do want to move my scouts before I get too excited. Okay, so there's no path behind the Numidians at this point. Now that we've finished the worker, I don't have the food for another settler. I think I'm just going to go for a warrior as much as it pains me. Land dispute. The Didonian and Magonid families have engaged in a heated land dispute. The Didonians claim that they have an ancestral right to a particularly productive Magonid estate, but the Magonids deny the claims. Whose side shall we take? Both sides like me quite a bit, although the Didonians like me a little bit more. We must respect the ancestral claim of the Didonians. The Magonids have made the land their own, do nothing but watch for developments, or the land should belong to me. Yeah, Magonids. He just says, the world floated on the Renaissance while India drowned in the love that was Gaura Purnima. The 500-year anniversary of his disappearance will be in 2034. because he left our manifest pastimes at the age of 46. Age in quotation marks for those who are listening and not able to see the text. Okay, so we don't have that much left in terms of orders, so these military units are kind of wasted. And we've completed the goal of 2 technologies. Now, unfortunately, we've got our resource card. I'm probably going to take it, but Adonibal the Cunning has converted to Carthaginian paganism. Meganid family has converted to Carthaginian paganism. Reports of a tribal raid from a Libyan hovel near Hadramentum. So we've got the militia there already. Matriarch Imlis the Commander has successfully converted Oligarch Zyra the Builder to her religion, which was Carthaginian paganism. Resources. Our advances in technology will grant us advantage over the local tribes, more so the more we learn and innovate. We should turn our gaze outward now toward what lies beyond the horizon. Founding new cities will grant us control of more land and additional resources. Carthaginian merchants can trade these resources to other nations and turn enormous profits. Wealth is the path to prosperity and power. So our next goal is to control 4 cities. So I can pick Stone Boost. That's going to take 3 years for 200 stone. Alternatively, I can go for Trapping. Now, Trapping is very tempting here because I do want to use that camp with the elephants. Husbandry is another good one in 7 years, but honestly, I need the stone. So we are going to go for the Stone Boost. All right, raiders. Libyan tribes to the southeast were initially shocked to learn of the news that Carthage had subjugated their nearby brethren. They have heard plenty of rumors about the wealth of the emerging city. Seeking plunder and glory, some among them have set out to raid Carthaginian lands. The great families have engaged in debate. Should we answer this threat with retaliation, or should we rely on our defenses to protect us while we seek to acquire more wealth? So we could send dies to 2 families, or we could issue a decree. I think I'm going to issue a decree. Honoring our gods. The Phoenician peoples pay homage to many gods. Shrines are no longer enough. The great families of Carthage desire to construct temples within the city to honor favored gods such as Baal-Hamon, the god of fertility, and his consort Tanit. Land near the city is fertile and should be preserved for farming. Trying to quarry stone near the shore is a fool's errand. The city lacks easy access to the supplies of stone needed to satisfy the needs of the citizenry. Much of the stone that has been locally available was used in the construction of the city walls. Carthage is wealthy enough to import stone, but securing local sources would be better in the long run. Leadership is needed to meet this demand for stone. The families desire the nation to set this as a priority. So we'll take a minute here and review our goals. So 3 biremes, which I'm going to need technology for that. Control 4 cities. We're on our way to our 3rd. Issuing a decree, as long as I do that within 35 years, will be fine. And then stockpile 500 stone. That is going to hold my progress back a little bit, but overall, it is a task. It's a task that I want to perform. So, first things first, let's build this quarry on the marble. Next up, I want to put a miner on the ore here. Okay, it's going to... It wants... Right, I'm not going to get it because I'm building a settler right now. Tricky. I do like the idea of doing some more conversions. So, is there anybody who dislikes me? Nashma the scientist. Sorry, Nazma. Hidden jewels. Our explorers discover a cache of jewels hidden deep in the abandoned ruins. Their orders were to explore the lands. Would you rather they exploit this discovery instead? So we can keep the jewels but continue exploring, or the treasury would be grateful if that we found more jewels. I think I will translate that training into gold. Again, part of this is a consequence of the fact that training is slower in this, so it does, in my opinion, make sense to try and convert that into other resources we can make the most out of. You know what? Let's not do that. So again, our horse units are not moving. We should actually probably move on the barbarians because we can take that skirmisher now. But about the game, am I winning? I'm certainly off to a good start, I would say. So our goal, essentially, we want to achieve at least 8 for a bronze victory, although there will be ultimately 12 goals. So I've completed 3 of the 8 necessary. And then of the goals that I need to complete, so I've completed 3. I have 4 on the table right now. So one is to construct 3 biremes, so naval units, control 4 cities, issue a decree, and stockpile 500 stone. A lot of these are just a function of time. They're not that difficult for me to achieve. So in that sense, I'm doing well. But it is also true that I've been talking a lot, so I'm not as far in the game as I would be if I was playing on my own. Okay. Let's think. So in 4 years, I'm going to have a settler, so we want to clear out the barbarians. So in this case, we are going to move closer. And I think probably hiring the marauder would be a good idea here. But if I do it now, then they're going to get hit by both the skirmisher and like 2 sets of skirmishers. So I'm going to wait a little bit before I hire them. Moving on. Harvest the elephants. And we found the Atlas Mountains. You're losing the fight to stay awake. You're going to go lurk from bed. Well, thank you very much for hanging out, Takuri. I know it's not as much progress as I would have normally liked to have made here, but... Okay, this isn't so bad. They attacked me from across the river, so we took some damage, but if I'm going to take this kind of damage, this is good. So, Matriarch Imlis, the commander, has successfully converted Nazma, the scientist, to her religion and skill. King Malchus, the descendant of Dido, convenes the court to seek counsel of the oligarchs. The crown intends to emphasize skilled labor and adopt policies to support productivity. However, there is an opportunity to promote one area of skill above the others. What should that be? So we can get 4 specialists or 2 laws. Both of these will actually be kind of hard just because I don't have, like, growth is going to affect my ability to do this. But let's try to train 4 specialists. Because there are a couple of ways that I can try and angle this to my advantage. Now, first of all, we're going to hire the marauder. Okay, we're too far from a friendly city, so here this is really just about getting information. Should probably be figuring out what to do with my workers now, though, so... Okay, we've got the Cork Oak Forest, and I am now Malchus the Explorer. No, don't disband the scout. Well, there's the raiders. Your wife has given birth to a son, Prince Bostar. Alright, now I love selecting drama because it starts the music, but let's see what our options are here. So, administration will get me treasury and a granary. It's recommending labor force here, which will give me options for laws as well as roads. Polis will give me walls and the hamlet. So if I look at the tech tree... Ah, now labor force makes sense because that will give me access to navigation, which is more closely aligned with the goal that I want to achieve. So yes, I do agree with the choice of labor force. Okay, now I want to move the militia up to deal with the... We don't want to fight them, like, in our own territory. We want to go out and meet them. I think I still have... Yeah, I think I can handle it. Alright, let's go. Let's keep looking for new things. Well, that's a new thing. We're too far away to take advantage of any of this. But I figure at the very least we can get sort of the lay of the land. The more barbarian camps I can find, the better, since that's going to mean... that's going to be a natural expansion point for me. Although I do notice that the game does not have a 4th barbarian camp in the area, so I'm going to have to either go to war with the Numidians or the Libyans. I think it'll probably depend on which one's more angry at me at the time. Alright, so I've got my quarry. I think we're going to be waiting a while with this guy. Paying our dues. Carthage may be an independent nation, but it would not exist without Tyre. They are Phoenicians, as are we, and it is Tyre's position in the region that allows Carthage to thrive. Many trading ships stop at our harbors, but it is Tyre that serves as the final destination for these ships. Carthage will surely suffer greatly if Tyre falls to a hostile force, or if it begins to consider us an enemy. Thus, Carthage regularly sends tribute to Tyre, arriving at the city's great temple of Melkart with our best regards. What shall we send to Tyre now? So we can send our finest produce, 110 food. Iron will help Tyre defend against whatever threats it may face. That's the largest amount that we have. We don't have money right now, or what we have we need for ourselves. Carthage is done paying tribute even to the mother city. So in this case, we'll send the iron. Proposition. During a chance encounter, Imlis steps close to you and in a suggestive tone hints that she would like to spend some time getting to know you better. While at first you are taken aback by this direct proposition, you have to admit that it has a certain tactless charm. So, yes, I would like to know you very well, or I think I know enough about you already. So, pluses. I'm fostering religious unity through an extramarital affair. Minuses. I am married. The extra discipline's nice too, but yes, I would like to know you very well. I'm curious how my wife feels about that. Cautious opinion of me. There is not dehydration in the game. So I think it's the case that both of them are also near settlements. So I think the idea here in the game is that the logistics are essentially abstracted away. Heaven and Earth. Pumapunku, which literally means Gate of the Puma, is the 6th century T-shaped and strategically aligned man-made terraced platform mound with a sunken court and monumental structure on top that is part of Pumapunku complex in the Tuanku site near Tuanku in western Bolivia. The Pumapunku complex is an alignment of plazas and ramps centered on the Pumapunku platform mound. Today, the monumental complex on the top of the platform lies in ruins. It is believed to date to AD 536, after Akapana, which is believed to be Pumapunku's twin. Pumapunku was the second most important construction in Tiwanaku. Among all the names for the areas in Tiwanaku, only the names of Akapana and Pumapunku have historical relevance. At Pumapunku, several miniature gates, which are perfect replicas of once standing full-size gateways, were found. Additionally to these miniature gateways, likely at least 5 gateways and several blind miniature gateways were once or were intended to be integrated into the Pumapunku monumental complex. The foundation platform of Pumapunku supported as many as 8 andesite gateways. The fragments of the 5 andesite gateways with similar characteristics to the Gateway of the Sun were found. Tiwanaku is significant in Inca traditions because it is believed to be the site where the world was created. In Aymara, Pumapunku's name means Gate of the Puma. The Pumapunku complex consists of an unwalled western court, a central unwalled esplanade, a terraced platform mound that is faced with stone, and a walled eastern court. At its peak, Pumapunku is thought to have been unimaginably wondrous, adorned with polished metal plaques, brightly colored ceramic and fabric ornamentation, and visited by costume citizens, elaborately dressed priests, and elites decked in exotic jewelry. Current understanding of this complex is limited due to its age, the lack of written record, and the current deteriorated state of the structures due to treasure hunting, looting, stone mining for building stone, and railroad ballast, and natural weathering. Yeah, no worries, Aegis. So this is actually not a bad example here. I don't know if Vanguard's still around, but this is an example of one thing which I'm not always as happy with Wikipedia, is when you have like this. It's kind of an example of how this is the product of sort of many hands, where you have the definition, the meaning, the Gate of the Puma repeated sort of within the first 3 paragraphs. And again, it's not the end of the world, but it's one of these points. The more you know to look, the more sort of lack of polish you sometimes find on certain articles, and it's a shame. But it's, also not it's not the end of the world. It's just one of those things that I tend to notice. Okay, temple stands atop the crest of the highest hill. Its terrace decorated with bright metal and ceramic. Local legend marks this site as where heaven and earth meet, where all life began. Of course, the only way to see its wonders is to inhale some of the mind-altering plants along the hillside in an ancient spiritual ceremony. A soldier brings you a bowl of this strange powder, but he seems hesitant about its effects. So we can gain culture and say, my mind is open, or I want no part in these rituals, and I become educated. Now, educated's not the worst thing for me to go for here. So if I say my mind is open, I get the culture and exotic. I gain additional charisma. Or educated. I want no part in the rituals. Alright, there's nowhere else for us to move with this unit right now. Let's deal with military matters first. I may lose this unit, but let's see if we can... We'll see if we can... Yeah, we should still survive, but I'm feeling a little uncertain, let's say. Alright, this unit unfortunately is going to be idle for a while. And that's the year. Matriarch Imlis the Commander, my lover, has died. Queen Consort Arshbal is now head of Carthaginian paganism. Alright, so it's now part of the Carthaginian tradition to be enjoying relations with the head of the religion. Oligarch Zyra the Builder has died, and Oligarch Zushan the Herbalist is now head of the Maganid family. Fatal Attraction. Here we go. You find yourself in an impossible situation. Imlis the Commander and Zyra the Builder have both sworn their undying love for you, and have been showering you with flattery and gifts. Their mutual envy has poisoned many a court meeting, and at times has almost come to blows. Shockingly but predictably, the two fools murder each other in a bathhouse duel over your affections. Their bodies are found wrapped in a deadly embrace, spattered with blood and soap, daggers still in clenched fists. It seems you might be too well liked. Queen Consort has become jealous. So I'm the life of the court, or the death, I guess. Who doesn't like a bit of drama? And I become debauched. Perhaps we should behave with more modesty and stop flirting. No, hell no. And we shall hold a state funeral for the deceased. All right. Now, I don't see a situation where this unit lives if they stay around here, so I'm going to move them back. Raised fields. Our explorers discover the ruins of a sprawling agricultural civilization. Raised fields split by shallow canals suggest the ancient inhabitants used controlled flooding, allowing them to thrive during seasons of heavy rainfall. Such a site has much to teach us about efficient food production if we take the time to heed it. So we can plow the fields for whatever is left, or allow scientists to study the process. As much as I'd love to have the sorghum, I don't think I'm going to be controlling this area for a while, so we will plow the fields for whatever's left. Malachus is you and governor of Carthage, so I could improve my wisdom, my charisma, or my courage. I think we'll boost the wisdom for now. And let's choose production. So we need to focus on settlers for the for specialists for the next little while. I think my best option here would be to hold a festival, because I need the growth for the specialists. I'm completely flummoxed as to... Well, okay. Here we can heal. Ah! I think I just accidentally abdicated the throne. Yeah, I'm really stumped in terms of what I want to do with my, what I want to do with some of my builders right now. Old World, we are Sanatana, that which has always existed and will remain existing to no end. Any other reference to age is relative rather than absolute, which we are parts and parcels of. This game is interesting in the setting of appreciation of this all being a party that we are helping each other to evolve. Yeah, actually, the title Old World, so we talked about this a little bit earlier. The original name for this game was 10 Crowns, which was a reference to the 10 generations of rulers that you would play. Oh, the Child's Revenge. A message has arrived from the Libyans. It seems they have a new war leader, one who is more than a little upset with us. Years ago, Carthage left me to die, but I didn't die. I found a new home with the Libyans where I grew strong, and now I shall have my revenge upon you. If my armies take Carthage, they will raze it to the ground. If. Carthage is now at war with the Libyans. Well, I mean, it is my fault, so... So let's get ready for the fight. So I need to think a little more carefully about... So basically what I need to be doing right now is thinking about where I'm going to build various improvements. So one example here, I am going to build another cultural building. We are going to build the Shrine of Melkart because I don't really have that many coastal cities that'll have multiple sea resources. This one's still waiting for a... this one's still waiting to be able to build the quarry. This one may make sense to put the Shrine of Eshman because of the healing. But is there something better that I might be able to do? A farm up here wouldn't be unwelcome because of the pasture. Next up, I can definitely do more conversions. Anyways, so the yeah, so the original name was 10 Crowns, and again, just one of the big problems with the title was simply that there were the 10 generations never quite worked. And so one of the things I really like about the name Old World is it is this reference to sort of where you find yourself in the game. And I think this is sometimes a lesser appreciated part of the game Old World, where unlike a lot of 4X games where you sort of have this nice symmetric start among everyone, or at least close to that, you kind of start off as this new arrival in this much older world, which is already populated by people. So for instance, we're Carthage. At the very start, we had just founded the city. And then it sort of fast forwards a little bit, so at least we have the walls up. But if you compare, right, so we've got this tribe, the Numidians, and the Numidians, we can get this from the game's tooltips, I think. So they have 8 different cities. The Libyans, who we're currently at war with, have 2. So, even in the case of the Libyans, who we're currently at war with, they are equal in power to me. And one feature of this game is that you often have to play nice with people. You have to sort of recognize that you are a new entity in a world much older and more established than you. And that can lead to a very different type of play, which I think is an interesting one. So in addition to it being a reference to the ancient world, which is sort of interesting in its own right, I do think it's kind of this reference to the state that you find yourself in the opening stages of the game as well. Okay, we're going to move back and heal up because we are going to have another fight coming up soon. I just want to see if there's any worker units I need to worry about. Not really, so we will whack away at the barbarian settlement. I like to get a bit closer to the action, so we'll heal up there. And yeah, we're short on any other options, so let's move through. Right now, I really just want to see as much of the map as I can. I'm obviously over-invested in terms of my scouts in one certain part of the map, but we can always fill in the gaps. after. So I'd love to be able to buy these skirmishers, but we're a little short on money. Okay, that's the year. This is going to be a problem. Queen Consort Arishbal of Carthage has successfully converted Zromod to a religion. Okay, so the game is recommending the Phalanx. I don't dislike this choice because it will be good against the tribal units. I do question, though, spending 9 years on something that's going to take me a very long time to build, especially when I have the alternative of building of husbandry, where I can build plantations, which will allow me more specialists. So I think I'm going to go for husbandry instead. Now, I'm going to heal this unit. This is basically buying us time at this point. Both of these options get us the same access. I think we'll move in here. Now, in truth, the Magonids would have been better here because of the bonuses for mines. But I do need to pick either traders or... You know what? Let's go for Hanonids. A new court merchant, Hanno, has joined the court. His keen attention to economic affairs will help Carthage prosper. Welcome to Hanno the Merchant. Great Achievers, a group of talented commoners, have been brought before the court to be recognized for their achievements. With a small investment, we may offer one person the chance to be raised to the status of nobility. Whom shall we choose? The infantry captain will gain a court soldier, the gem trader will gain a court merchant, or we cannot afford to pay that much. Let's go for the gem trader. A new court merchant, Pharaohin, has joined the court. His keen attention to economic affairs will help Carthage prosper. And slavery or freedom. Carthage is in need of a decision regarding its labor force. Some in court support the system of slavery, while others wish to keep freedom a virtue. So we can keep slaves, which will increase unhappiness, but mines and quarries get extra output. Our subjects will be free. We'll get additional gold for specialists, and because we're working on specialists already, we will go for freedom. There are other reasons to go for freedom, which have nothing to do with economic advantage, but... No, they can wipe me out, so that's the wrong call. All right, so this mine on its own is not that special, but it is important, one, so that I can get a specialist, and two, so that I can get access for these quarries. Hippo Regius, we definitely want to start with a... Well, an Elder Shopkeeper would be nice. Does count as a specialist. Do I really want to wait 10 years for it, though? I think we need the worker first. All right, for the rest of you. I don't think this is the right place for the Shrine of Eshmun. Yeah, I don't have that much in terms of urban improvements that I can do right now. I am going to start moving these units over to deal with the Libyans. Surely I can do better. So we lose this unit if they stay put. Okay, so we do still need to issue a decree, so let's get that out of the way now. But after that, I also want a specialist. Sadly, none of these are exactly in the spot where I want them. So let's get the dye. No, I'm going to go for the fish first, then the dyes. We got 33 years, so we should be able to manage, but it's going to get a little tight now. Garrison seems like a really good idea now. Ah, I took up some of the stuff. You know what? That's fine. We'll live with giving up stone. Okay, you need to basically heal forever. Oh, yes, there's another thing I want to do. But not with these units. Never mind. So we're kind of taking the long way home, but the good news is we're going to get more or less full view of the map. Queen Consort Aristbal of Carthage has successfully converted Oligarch Hanno the Merchant to a religion. Like mother, like son, you may be interested to learn that, for better or worse, Prince Bostar is showing signs of taking after his mother, Queen Consort Aristbal of Carthage, and how this influence will take shape is yet to be seen. So we can become educated, intelligent, or slothful. Became intelligent. Okay, again, I'm struggling with upgrades, but let's focus on the task at hand. So, I want to be kind of careful in terms of how I manage all of this. I'm doing it this way so I can add a general. So one, I want to protect my cities. Two, I want to make sure that my units have the advantages that I can give them. All right, this guy is ready for a fight. Ah, actually, okay, there's another way I could have done this turn, so we're going to just back that all up. Okay, so this means both of these units get to heal. I'll send them to the border just because it means it's a faster trip to take out this city. That's more like it. Okay. What am I going to do with this guy? 3 turns before I have a pasture. Again, this is for lumber mills. That's for lumber mills too. This could be an urban site. I feel like I'm reserving too many regions. Alright. This is a chance for us to beat the crap out of a unit. We'll take it. Alright, now this is a nice milestone for us. This means we can start building that quarry. I am partial to the stonecutter. Yeah, that actually gives me access to more quarries over the long run. So now we can make some real progress. 2 years before husbandry, so we will chop trees again. You still heal. A decree issued. As desired by the Didonian family, we have issued a decree condemning the hostilities visited upon us by the warlords of the Libyan tribes. Excellent. We are on our way to becoming a respected nation. All right, so we're making progress. Our timed goal right now would be for the 4 specialists. So we're currently training a stonecutter, which will be our 3rd specialist, and then in 5 years we'll have the fisher. I'm working on my quarries right now. The pasture is actually going to be the next big improvement for us, but I'm going to give that some time. Okay, so we'll use the mercenary unit first. I thought so. This is going to get a little hairy, but just kind of banking the moves for next turn. All right, so we don't really have that much to investigate with this unit anymore. Let's get them to... We'll see if we can harvest the elephants. Oh, we got absolutely nothing we can do with them. But yeah, I'm particularly interested in seeing what happens with this fight. If it gets a little too intense for our guys, we have to pull back. I don't think they're going to be able to survive another round like that. Prince Bostar is now old enough to be tutored by courtiers. Sophonisba, the wanton, has died. Shame I didn't make her acquaintance. Hannibal the Younger has converted to Carthaginian paganism, and the Hanoid family has converted to Carthaginian paganism. Excellent. Okay, so the game's recommending trapping. However, navigation gives me biremes. Biremes are closer... damn it. I think I am going to take trapping. This is kind of a shame. I'm doing this because I need to build improvements. Otherwise, I would have done navigation so I could satisfy the biremes. Okay, Bostar can become a philosopher, politician, tactician, or commoner. Let's start with politics to follow in his dad's footsteps. Okay, so we're good for pastures. Should probably build some units that can defend these cities, but that's going to have to be a tomorrow me consideration. Oh, they're not in friendly territory, darn it. Yeah, I think this unit should be able to survive. Okay, governors. Nazma seems like the obvious choice. Let's tutor. Hano is the only option here. Am I familiar with Alexander the Great surrendering and allying himself with a tribe after being flanked? I'm not familiar with that. I know a bit about Alexander the Great, but not... I definitely don't know that individual story. Do feel free to share. And I don't have the orders to do anything fancy with the consort, so... Okay, Stonecutter's done. We don't have... we don't have room for another specialist, so we'll train a warrior for now. No! Okay, cool. Oligarch Zushan, the herbalist, has died. Oligarch Zormond of Carthage is now head of the Maganid family, and Abduzir the Robust has converted to Carthaginian paganism. The young master. Withdrawing from much of the school's daily lectures, Prince Bostar focuses intensely on his study of politics, ethics, and debate. He has even developed a small following of loyal devotees who record his teachings. After several months of focused study, Bostar compiles the first true policy manifest. Cool. So encourage him to spread these teachings to the people, which will give us additional culture, or request that he incorporate his lessons. Nope. Spread his teachings. Savannah, Georgia being the only Southern American town not to be burned down by General Sherman. That I didn't know either. All right, the time has come again for Carthage to send tribute to Tyre. What shall our next shipment consist of? Our finest produce, 120. Iron to help defend. Money's always useful. In this case, we'll send produce. All right, lots of stuff that we can get. Let's start with growth. What are you doing? Liberated! Alright, let's see what comes up on this one. Parasopolis. Alright, the destruction of Parasopolis. After invading Achaemenid Persia in 330 BC, Alexander the Great, speaking of, you say there is a Middle Eastern tribe that to this day you can see blue eyes due to their victory. I heard it explained to me, but that's all that you remember. Okay. Yeah, destruction. After invading Achaemenid Persia in 330 BC, Alexander the Great sent the main force of his army to Parasopolis by the royal road. Diodorus Siculus writes that on his way to the city, Alexander and his army were met by 800 Greek artisans who had been captured by the Persians. Most were elderly and suffered some form of mutilation, such as missing a hand or foot. They explained to Alexander the Persians wanted to take advantage of their skills in the city, but handicapped them so they could not easily escape. Alexander and his staff were disturbed by the story and provided the artisans with clothing and provisions before continuing on to Persepolis. I'm terrible for pronunciation. Diodorus does not cite the reason for the destruction of Persepolis, but it is possible Alexander started to see the city in a negative light after this encounter. Upon reaching the city, Alexander stormed the Persian gates, passed through modern-day Zagros Mountains. There, Barzans of Persis successfully ambushed Alexander the Great's army, inflicting heavy casualties. After being held off for 30 days, Alexander the Great outflanked and destroyed the defenders. Barzans himself was killed either during the battle or during the retreat to Persepolis. Is it Persepolis? I need to learn how to pronounce it. Some sources indicate... I've only ever read it, so... some sources indicate that Persians were betrayed by a captured tribal chief who showed the Macedonians an alternate path that allowed them to outflank Barzans in a reversal of Thermopylae. After several months, Alexander allowed his troops to loot Persepolis. Around this time, a fire burned the palaces or the palace. Scholars agree that this event, described in historic sources, occurred at the ruins that have now been re-identified as Persepolis. From Stoltz's investigations, it appears that at least one of these, the castle built by Xerxes I, bears traces of having been destroyed by fire. The locality described by Diodorus Siculus after Cleitarchus corresponds in important particulars with the historic Persepolis, for example, in being supported by a mountain on the east. It is believed that the fire which destroyed Persepolis... Man, they really love saying the name. Started from Haddish Palace, which was the living quarters of Xerxes I, and spread to the rest of the city. It is not clear if the fire was an accident or a deliberate act of revenge for the burning of the Acropolis of Athens during the Second Persian invasion of Greece. Many historians argue that, while Alexander's army celebrated with a symposium, they decided to take revenge against the Persians. If that is so, the destruction of Persepolis could both be an accident and a case of revenge. The fire may have also had the political purpose of destroying an iconic symbol of the Persian monarchy that might have become a focus for Persian resistance. Several much later Greek and Roman accounts, including Arrian, Diodorus Siculus, and Quintus Curtius Rufus, describe that the burning was the idea of Thais, mistress of Alexander's general Ptolemy I's Soter, and possibly of Alexander himself. She is said to have suggested it during a very drunken celebration, according to some accounts, to revenge the destruction of Greek sanctuaries. She was from Athens, and either she or Alexander himself set the fire going. The Book of Arda Wiraz, a Zoroastrian work composed in the 3rd or 4th century, describes Persepolis archives as containing all the Avesta and Zend, written upon prepared cowskins with gold ink, which were destroyed. Indeed, in his chronology of the ancient nations, the native Iranian writer Biruni indicates unavailability of certain native Iranian historiographical sources in the post-Achaemenid era, especially during the Parthian Empire. He adds Alexander burned the whole of Persepolis as revenge to the Persians, because it seems the Persian king Xerxes had burnt the Greek city of Athens around 150 years ago. People say that even at the present time, the traces of fire are visible in some places. Paradoxically, the event that caused the destruction of those texts may have helped in the preservation of Persepolis administrative archives, which might otherwise have been lost over time to natural and man-made events. According to archaeological evidence, the partial burning of Persepolis did not affect what are now referred to as the Persepolis fortification archive tablets, but rather may have caused the eventual collapse of the upper part of the northern fortification wall that preserved the tablets under their recovery by the Oriental Institute's archaeologists. And Aegis says, I heard there was a thief caught in Alexander's treasury. He complained, you are doing what I am doing, only on a greater scale, stealing in the day with armies, while I steal in the night with my own arms. And the logic held that Alexander had no right to punish his crime. There was apparently a sage that drew power from the sun. Alexander stood over him and asked him what he wanted, and the sage asked only to have uninterrupted view of the sun. So there's a slightly different version of that story. Corinth, according to a story which seems to have originated with Menippus of Gadara, Diogenes was captured by pirates while on voyage to Aegina and sold as a slave in Crete to a Corinthian named Xeniades. Being asked his trade, he replied that he knew no trade but that of governing men, and that he wished to be sold to a man who needed a master. Xeniades liked his spirit and hired Diogenes to tutor his children. As tutor to Xeniades' 2 sons, it is said that he lived in Corinth for the rest of his life, which he devoted to preaching the doctrines of virtuous self-control. There are many stories about what actually happened to him after his time with Xeniades' 2 sons. There are stories stating that he was set free after becoming a cherished member of the household, while one says that he was set free almost immediately, and still another states that he grew old and died at Xeniades' house in Corinth. He is even said to have lectured to large audiences at the Isthmian Games. Although most of the stories about his living in a jar are located in Athens, Lucian recounts a tale where he lived in a jar near the Gymnasium in Corinth. Here's the anecdote we were talking about. It was in Corinth that a meeting between Alexander the Great and Diogenes is supposed to have taken place. These stories may be apocryphal. The accounts of Plutarch and Diogenes Laertius recount that they exchanged only a few words. While Diogenes was relaxing in the morning sunlight, Alexander, thrilled to meet the famous philosopher, asked if there was any favor that he might do for him. Diogenes replied, "Yes, stay out of my sunlight." Alexander then declared, "If I were not Alexander, then I should wish to be Diogenes." To which Diogenes replied, "If I were not Diogenes, I would still wish to be Diogenes." In another account of the conversation, Alexander found the philosopher looking attentively at a pile of human bones. Diogenes explained, "I am searching for the bones of your father, but cannot distinguish them from those of a slave." So, couple of other additions to that anecdote for you, Aegis. All right, liberated. So remembering it was Persepolis that we were reading the entry for. A crumbling prison stands in the Libyan settlement. Scores of soldiers and citizens from Carthage have been languishing here for years, most believed dead by their loved ones. Their release calls for a celebration. We can let them return to their families, or arm them and put them at the front. Nope, we'll let them return to their families. Okay, we want to heal reasonably quickly, but there is a war going on, so we need to... So we need to build a settler, we need to build a specialist. Soreburst snacks. While examining the newly harvested sorghum seeds by torchlight, a merchant in Hipporegius had a fortunate accident. The grains, left too close to the flame, began to burst with loud popping sounds. After calming down, the merchant discovered this soreburst to be quite delicious, especially with butter, salt, or honey. She now has a thriving business in Hipporegius, and Hipporegius is becoming well known for this delicacy. I expect soreburst stands to pop up all over Carthage. Okay. I'm debating between a warrior or the elder shopkeeper. I think I'm going to build the shopkeeper. Possibly to my detriment. Educating our women. Many of the women's elderly and elites are starting to voice concerns about educating women to be their equals. They want us to put a limit as to how much education we can allow our women. We can say education is provided to all people equally, which will give us an additional citizen. Shall you sail to Italy? What year is it? I think it might tell me the year up there, but I can tell you that Italy, we actually are limited by the map on this one. We do get to do it just a little bit later in the campaign. So education is provided to all people equally. So the families will dislike that, but citizens good. Or we should keep our conservative ways to please the elderly and the elites. Nope. Give me those citizens. I need specialists. So we've got Sicily here. And the way you know that you're at the end of the map is you can see sort of the thunder and lightning and all of that. So we've got Sardinia, Sicily. So Italy's just off the edge. We can't go past these black borders. But Rome does come up, and we are currently in 672 BCE. So we actually also don't have navigation, but that will change shortly. All right, let's get some more conversions in. So fierce isn't going to be useful because pretty much everything we're going to be going up against is mounted. So I think guard is probably our best bet here. And I want to get a sight down reasonably soon so I can start healing them. All right. Yeah, it's pretty much quarries for days at this point. Alright, we've completed the 4 specialist goal. Oligarch Hanno the Merchant has tutored Prince Bostar, improving his wisdom. Isn't that specialist? As desired by the Maganid family, we have devoted our energies to training our craftsmen and developing new trade secrets. Excellent, we are on our way to becoming a stable nation. I think the time has come for navigation again. The phalanx would be great because I'm against mounted units, but we need the biremes. Alright, popular board game. A new game has become popular in Hadrumentum. Rumor has it that the game is a variant of another game played in far-off lands, though nobody knows for sure. Whatever the origin, the game is remarkably simple, needing nothing more than a series of holes and some seeds or stones to be played. Players place their seeds in pits, as if sowing. On each turn, the players rearrange their seeds across the other pits, trying to capture some of the opponent's seeds in the process. The winner of this game can claim to be a more accomplished planner and landowner. So that's a developing culture event, and we can encourage it as a pastime, or we can say the game is fit for the aristocracy. Let's encourage it as a pastime. Okay, so again, our big goal is would be stone, but I don't want to abandon my infrastructure efforts, so I am going to continue to build the fisheries. We can finally build the camp, so putting a specialist on the camp will give me access to building quarries here as well. Heal up who we can. All right. And that's it for the turn. So I don't think we have that much to fear from Libya, but I am going to want to think about how I can expand against the Numidians. I think money is going to be the real answer there. But the problem is as soon as I start that fight, I'm going to have to sort of fight it on 2 fronts. Alright, reports of a tribal raid from a Numidian outpost near Carthage. General Pharaon the Merchant has converted to Carthaginian paganism, and that was the result of the conversion effort. The price of peace. A gruff emissary from the Numidians brings us a warning. Dozens of Numidian men have banded together and are prepared to raid Carthaginian lands. Several Numidian warlords respect Carthage due to our previous peaceful dealings, but these warlords lack the influence to stop the raid. We have to prepare to defend against the raid unless the raiders can somehow be convinced to embark on an adventure elsewhere. So we could send a gift of money, or we can say Carthage knows how to defend itself. Yep, we're going to say we know how to defend ourselves, which we technically don't. Peaceable Kingdom. On a recent visit home, Prince Bostar fills the palace with animals from a nearby wood, birds, lizards, and all manner of furry beasties. He cares for them like a loving father. Upon Bostar's return to his studies, you suggest ways for him to further his interests. We could study group care and behavior, and he becomes a cultivator. Wade among lakes and rivers, where he becomes a pathfinder. Now, that would be helpful because we do take advantage of camps and nets. Or to ride is to know true freedom. I think we'll say wade among the lakes and rivers. All right, infrastructure. As the growing nation attracts more immigrants, both Phoenicians and from other cultures, and as bountiful harvests of food encourage families to have large numbers of children, the growing horde of citizens and laborers requires more infrastructure to be built. The court is convened to discuss the matter of which infrastructure need should be chosen as the nation's top priority for new construction. So this is a timed entry. 7 pastures and camps, a constitution, or lumber mills. Okay, so let's see how long it's going to take me for... Okay, so pastures and camps. So we have currently access to 1, 2, 3, 4... Hang on, 1, 5... All right, no, we could, as long as we take out the Libyans, we potentially have the means of doing so. This sheep is the real question mark. So as an alternative, let's see what the tech tree shows us. So sovereignty's not that far off. I don't think we're going to have lumber mills in time, so let's try the pastures and camps. 40 turns is going to be tight, but... All right. I really could have thought that through a little bit better. So we'll obviously deal with the invasion first, and then we'll worry about any follow-up. That's not a surprise. Okay. I think we can do better. Actually, no, we can't. And in this case, I'm not bothering to finish healing because we need to... Like, I want to make sure that we deal with the raid first. Okay. Grab the camels. Grab the horses. Grab the marble. And then run away. Interesting. I think there's going to be problems in Hippo Regius, but... Okay, swords are science. While the obvious use for a fresh batch of ore is to forge swords and armor, some of our blacksmiths instead wish to use it to experiment with new casting techniques in hopes of learning something new. Definitely science. So, again, I'm trying to come up with some priorities here. So, number one, I wanted to, first of all, I want to eliminate the threats to my cities. And in this case here, that meant sort of redeploying troops. Eventually, we're going to get our focus back on the Libyans, although I think it would not be a bad idea to have a unit sort of garrisoning every city at this point. Next up, I probably should have tutored my child. And we can send this to the Magonids. So I don't have that much left in terms of actions I can take. So we finished a warrior in Carthage. So there's a few things I want to do, to be honest, but let's start by getting some of the luxuries. All right, I feel I kind of have to, yeah, I need to build the trapper first so that I can get the quarry built. I think I'm going to leave the rest set aside for now. Got a lot of unused units again. Oh yeah, I do actually need to build a settler at some point too. So this is exactly why I moved these units in like this. Oligarch Matan of Hadramentum has died. Oligarch Ashnat the Bold is now head of the Didonian family, and with a mild fever and runny nose, King Malchus the Explorer is rather ill. An assignment. A letter arrives by courier from Prince Bostar at the Academy. Dear Malchus, as part of my instruction at the Academy, my tutors have directed me to write to you. All has been going well, and I have little to complain of. I miss Mother at times, but I must carry on. Your son, Bostar. Thank you. Please return to your duties, courier. Okay, military matters first. We're currently being raided. All right, next up. Definitely quarries. This is the one I'm not sure about. So the Shrine of Eshmun isn't a terrible... Actually, it's better than I... It's probably better than I originally thought. It does put me behind the stockpile, but I think I'm going to build it here. I'm not able to attack these units anymore, so I'll heal instead, and that's the year. Reports of a tribal raid from a Libyan outpost near Hadramentum, and Prince Bostar has reflected on his recent experiences and absorbed many important lessons. He has gained wisdom. Okay, so I don't really need the food right now. The game is recommending military drill, and I like that because it does give me a military building. Drama is also tempting, but in this case, I think the barracks is what the doctor ordered here. Politics studies. Now that Prince Bostar has completed his study of politics, how shall he contribute to the court? So he can be a judge or a scholar. Interesting. I didn't think... What are his natural talents? Yeah, scholar it is. Colonies or serfdom. Nobles in the court insist that we clarify our stance on economic systems. Do we support the policies of colonies abroad, or do we explore serfdom here at home? So the nation must grow and expand. We can buy tiles with money, or our people should work their own land. Definitely grow and expand. So, colonies. Okay, let's deal with the raid. So one down. It did warn me of some kind of a raid heading towards Hadramentum, but we are going to have a militia to deal with that. I didn't think that through. They need to stay somewhere they won't be attacked, so... Your doctors and diviners have warned you that the end is near. Time to get your affairs in order. I'm now known as Malchus the Brilliant. Self-assured and assertive, Prince Bostar, your son, exudes an aura of confidence. He's gained +1 charisma. Otir is converted to Carthaginian paganism, and Oligarch Hanno the Merchant has tutored Prince Bostar, improving his charisma. Himilco joins the court. A new court scholar, Himilco has joined the court. His curiosity and insight will aid Carthage in unraveling the mysteries of the world. Welcome, scientist. And, okay, so there's a few things I want to do here. First of all, we need to give Prince Bostar... So apparently he can marry Nazma the scientist outright. I seem to recall Nazma actually has very good stats, but I also suspect she's rather old for him. Yeah, we're not going to have kids out of that, so... which family do we need? Hanoids we need to get in good with. Yeah, I think Undo is a great choice here. Like, I understand for some games, like, I imagine in multiplayer, Undo would be unworkable. But in a game like this, just to be able to kind of correct... Like, especially when I'm sort of on autopilot mentally, the ability to do an Undo to avoid a real boneheaded move is a lifesaver. It definitely beats, like... saving every 15 seconds. Like, you know, at the end of your turn, it's like, yeah, okay, you've committed to that. Maybe you didn't like how it went, but, you know, them's the breaks. But, you know, to be able to say, oh, hang on, no, I didn't have the number of moves that I thought I did, and to be able to turn that around, you know, I think is really helpful. So... Queen Consort Arshbal of Carthage feels that Governor Nazma the Scientist's zealotry for the faith of Carthaginian paganism has been waning recently. She would like to intercede on your behalf and thereby help to improve your relationship with the governor. Why not? It's free, so... This is kind of a risky move, but... Okay, it's just my scouts left, so we'll keep harvesting. So at this point, again, I still want to get a settler down to claim this city, but I also want to take out the Libyans. So let's double check here. So it says they only have one more site. King Malchus the Brilliant, governor of Carthage, has died in office. And a new marriage proposal from the Hanonids has arrived for you, King Bostar the New. So, Dido the Younger, 19, 3 charisma, gold dowry, and Hanby of Hippo Regius, 25, builder, highly disciplined. I think Dido the Younger is the better option, though. Alright, General Feroan can become brave, a shield bearer. Now we'll give him the extra charisma. Where's my scout? Oh, they just get moved. Okay. End of an era. Bells ring, mourners fill the streets. King Malchus the Brilliant has died. It is the end of an era, and all of Carthage pauses to honor the contributions of our fallen ruler. The reign of King Bostar the New has begun. Long King Bostar the New. Chance for peace. The Libyans have sent one of their leaders to attend your coronation. After the ceremony, she approaches you cordially. We made war against your last ruler, she says, but we have no quarrel with you. Will you accept our offer of peace? So we can make a temporary truce. Let us exchange gifts of friendship, or why should we make peace with filth like you? I could really use the land. King Malchus the Brilliant has died in office. Let's choose a new governor. So a few of these have some drawbacks. I think we'll just put King Bostar in place. King Bostar is not really a fighter, so... I'm still going to hold the militia here because we don't know if these units are going to redirect to us. Yeah, that's why we have the militia there. Your wife has given birth to a son, Prince Zushan. The intercession mission of Queen Dowager Arshbal of Carthage to Governor Nazma the Scientist has led to an event. Queen Dowager Arshbal of Carthage stops you outside of your chambers with a frazzled look in her eyes. You have no idea what I had to do to get Governor Nazma the Scientist to support you. I spent day after day after day at her side bringing her around. Queen Dowager Arshbal of Carthage shoves a finger in your chest. You owe me for this. You owe me big. Well, I've always been in the debt of the servants of God. It's my mom. I mean, what's she going to tell me to do, right? So the game here is recommending aristocracy. We also have the option of redrawing because of my stats. So in the draw pile, we have drama, phalanx, steel, free bireme, spoked wheel, and coinage. I actually like the idea of doing a redraw here. Okay, I'll take the free bireme. Paying our dues, the time has come again for Carthage to send tribute to Tyre. What shall our next shipment consist of? I think we do the produce again, 110. And personal religion. Although Carthage has no state religion, many people follow their own faiths and practices. The Carthaginian pagan priests of Carthage say that the support of the gods will only strengthen your rule and offer to teach you about their ways. Do you accept? I do. All right. Military matters first. So in this case, I want to do maximum damage to a unit. This does mean they're probably going to run around wrecking a bunch of stuff, but there's not a lot I can do to stop that at this point, so... Alright, construction. Both fishers and miners make sense in this case. So we'll start with a fisher. This unit... Well, I can see why it makes sense to build a quarry here. I think I'll do it. We kind of need to get going on these pastures, so that one makes sense too. Okay, looks like they ruined one of my improvements. So, let's just poke away at them, see if we can come out on top. Oh, what do we do about the rest of you? Yeah, this quarry makes sense too. Okay, we'll move these guys into Hippo Regius proper. I was basically just waiting for a chance to... waiting for a chance to use those orders properly. Okay, so again, I want to focus on Byreme settlers, particularly settlers at this point. Oh, nuts! I thought for some reason they were going to be safe in that spot. Alright, Himilco the scientist is converted to Carthaginian paganism. Unwise and often absurd. Queen consort Dido is foolish. Alright. So I'm going to need to buy a replacement unit. What, surely it will tell me what units I lost. Nomad Skirmisher versus an Elite Nomad Skirmisher, so... let's just buy the Elite Nomad Marauder, how about? Okay, I'm going to need to repair what was lost. So put you to sleep, I think. Yeah, upgrade won't hurt. You know what? We're not quite ready to pass you up. Okay, we finished a rancher in Carthage. I'm tempted to go for more specialists, but I think in this case I need to go for the Byreme. So I'll do 2 of those. Then we'll say a fisher, and we'll see where we're at. This unit needs to protect itself, so harvest the ore. I don't think I can get the camels, so we'll just... There we go. Governor Nazma the Scientist, governor of Hadrumetum, has died in office, and Otir of Carthage has died. So I have a few options. I'm going to do drama. One, because I really want the music, but number two, Odeons are more useful to me right now. The court mourns. Today we grieve the death of Nazma the Scientist, a member of the Carthaginian court. Her spirit will be venerated and her deeds will be remembered. Rule of wisdom. The people of Carthage come to you, King Bostar the New, renowned for foresight and wisdom to guide Carthage to ever greater heights. Strong culture level, so we must provide better medical care for midwifery, or must learn to govern herself. I mean, that's a good resource bonus, but let's do midwifery. The public purse. We've read this one a few times before, but it doesn't hurt, especially because we're pretty much close to the end here. But Cura Annone. Cura Annone, care of Annonia, was the term used in Imperial Rome in honor of the goddess Annona, to describe the import and distribution of grain to residents of the cities of Rome and, after its foundation, Constantinople. The city of Rome imported all grain consumed by its population, estimated to number 1 million by the end of 2nd century AD. This included receipts of the grain dole or corn dole, a government program which gave out subsidized grain, then free grain, and later bread to about 200,000 of Rome's adult male citizens. Rome's grain subsidies were originally ad hoc emergency measures taken to import cheap grain from trading partners and allies at times of scarcity, to help feed growing numbers of indebted and dispossessed citizen farmers. By the end of the Republic, both grain subsidies and grain doles had become permanent, uniquely Roman institutions. The grain dole was reluctantly adopted by Augustus and later emperors as a free monthly issue to those who qualified to receive it. During the imperial era, a regular and predictable supply of subsidized grain, the grain dole, and sumptuous public games such as gladiator contests and chariot racing earned the obedience of potentially restive lower-class urban citizens, providing what the poet Juvenal sarcastically summed up as bread and circuses. In 22 AD, the Emperor Tiberius said that the Cura Annone, if neglected, would be the utter ruin of the state. Sounds like communism to me. Sufficient imports of grain to meet basic requirements of cities relied on dependable surpluses elsewhere and minimal grain hoarding by speculators. The logistics of moving the grain by sea to Rome required the state's commission of many hundreds of privately owned merchant ships, some very large, and a system for collecting and distributing the grain at its destination. Most of Rome's grain supply was grown, imported, stored, and traded as a profitable commodity, funded by speculators and hoarders using loans, not state subsidies. Some provinces were almost entirely given over to the production of grain for consumption in Roman cities. The most important sources of bread grain, mostly durum wheat, were Roman Egypt, North Africa, 21st century Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, and Sicily. When the Vandals took over most of these provinces, circa 439, the Western Roman Empire lost the greater part of its grain supply. Some form of cura annone may have persisted as late as the 6th century for Rome, but far less grain was shipped compared to earlier periods. In Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, it lasted as late as the 7th century in reduced form. The population of the city of Rome declined precipitously during the last years of the Western Roman Empire. Thereafter, no city in Europe would assemble the transportation network required to feed 1 million inhabitants until the 19th century. Now that Hippo Regius thrives, its elders wish to do more for the poor. A proposal for welfare provisions in Hippo Regius reaches the court, and debate begins. Imposing a grant of money for the hungry would reduce the state's funds, but it would set a powerful precedent. We would be seen as a protector of the people, so we can establish a grain dole, use the money to influence the nobility, or buy food to distribute to the hungry. Let's just establish a grain dole. Pride. There comes a time in the rise of nations when wealth and power have accumulated in such great amounts that the nation's leaders turn their eyes towards achievements of national pride. While the Carthaginian people are not yet so ambitious as to desire to construct unique wonders, they do bear a sense of pride and worth in what their culture has built. There is a desire among the court to undertake a grand project, something both practical and symbolic. which will not only aid the desire to grow the economy even larger, but also serve as a morale booster and source of new cultural pride among the citizenry. Select one from among the suggestions forwarded by your nation's elite families. Now, I have no idea how I can build 6 shrines. Yeah, okay, here we go. So, adopting the polytheism law will remove limits on how many shrines you can build. So, tempting. Explore 7 ancient ruins. I don't know if we've already done this, or construct 5 archives. Oof, these are going to be tough. So if I say 7 ruins, I've got 5 of 7. So the question is, could I get the remaining 2? Let's try it. Governor Nazma the scientist has died in office. Let's pick a new governor. Himlico's probably got the job. Yeah. Bostar is you and the governor of Carthage. So prosperous, 10 gold per year, not bad. Naturalist, lumber mills and pastures, bonus or extra wisdom. Let's go for the wisdom. Okay, lots to do. So first thing I want to do is clear out the raiders. So then the units that I need to heal should. It may come and beat me up, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take out the unit. It's close, but... Okay, we'll let you go to sleep. Move this one into the region. Yeah, I didn't manage this turn very well with orders. Okay, so I've got 3 workers riding... Oh no, this is the Byreme. Never mind. Let's go find that ruin. I think we'll do one more turn, and then I should probably call it for a night. Okay, we've completed the goal of stockpiling 500 stone. So we're already at a bronze victory. Glory of Carthage, honoring our gods. With the reserve of stone secured, the spiritual life of our great capital is assured. Every god worshipped by our citizenry will be honored. We will humbly receive their blessings from now unto forever. Now, I gotta run away. Okay, healing for most. Okay, what am I going to do here? I don't hate the idea of a garrison here, but I feel like I can do better. Wait a minute, we don't need the quarry the same way we used to. Yes, okay, no, I need to be building more urban improvements now. And I lied. I'm going to do another turn. All right. Your wife, Queen Consort Dido, wishes to indulge her creative tendencies and decorate the palace with works of art. Shall we accommodate her? Oh. No, we can hire the skill artist still. reports of a tribal raid from a Numidian outpost near Hipporegius. General Pharaon the merchant, General the warrior has died in the field. Okay, that's going to require some effort. So the game's recommending an axeman. I feel like the phalanx is the better call. And an archer would be even better, I think. The court mourns. Today we grieve the death of Pharaon the merchant, a member of the Carthaginian court. His spirit will be venerated and his deeds will be remembered. Daughters of Dido. Dido the founder remains an extremely popular figure amid the citizenry, but especially within the ranks of the wealthiest women in the capital, some of these women have begun to refer to Queen Dido as a goddess and to themselves as the daughters of Dido. Mothers teach the story of the oxhide to every child. Plays have been written depicting this tradition, retelling the story of the founding of Carthage in the most dramatic fashion. A group of the daughters of Dido, from the Didonian family, who are emigrating to Hadrumetum, demand that the crown open its coffers to fund the construction of an Odeon at their new home. They complain that the stories of Dido may begin to fade from the consciousness of the populace unless plays are held for regular viewing. Strong leadership on this matter can ensure the preservation of traditional values. So 450 gold for a free Odeon? Yeah, no, that's a great deal. Okay, now we're going to repair our infrastructure. And we're also going to make our move on the Libyans. So let's add a general. I'm actually running short on generals. Geoglyphs. Geoglyph is a large design or motif, generally longer than 4 meters, produced on the ground by durable elements of the landscape, such as stone fragments, gravel, or earth. A positive geoglyph is formed by the arrangement and alignment of materials on the ground in a manner akin to petroforms, while a negative geoglyph is formed by removing part of the natural ground surface to create differently colored or textured ground in a manner akin to petroglyphs. Geoglyphs are generally a type of land art and sometimes rock art. A hill figure is created on a slope so that it can be seen from a distance. Nothing about the hulking dirt mounds seems impressive at first. Not until our troops explore the adjacent desert hills do they return with news. At a distance, these primitive ruins comprise a massive pattern, designs, and even zoological images made to be seen from a great height. Who knows what riches lie beneath the mounds, but to dig would destroy their beauty. Create a National Historic Monument or excavate the site for valuables. No, Historic Monument. Oh boy. So there's definitely more than one city. Okay, now before we go any further, I do want to find this last ruin. But I think we're gonna leave it there. So let's do a review of where we are in the playthrough. First of all, we've completed a bronze victory. On the table, we've got 4 items. I am a little worried about the pastures one. So in 4 years, we'll have a settler. Then we need to build a worker. And then that worker is going to be able to build 1 pasture for the horses. And we have to extend our reach to be able to get to the sheep. So we've got 4, 5, possibly 6, and it's actually only by taking this site and building a camp on the elephants do we get number 7. And again, 28 years is not that long to do it. The ancient ruins, a little more likely. I may wind up losing this unit, which will make me sad if I do. But as long as we can find that remaining site, I think we'll be okay. As for the rest of it, yeah, I don't know. The biremes, the cities, those are all manageable. And I mean, honestly, if I wanted, I have beaten this on like the big victory. So if I wanted, I could just call it here and move on to number 2. But I would actually like to try and be a little more thoughtful in terms of building up my empire. So I think I'm going to see it through to the bitter end. But thank you for all of you for watching, especially because it was a little chattier than normal, I feel like. But I don't know, I'd actually be quite happy to keep playing Old World for a little while. So again, Monday's kind of a hooded horse day at this point. So that can mean anything. That could be Terra Invicta, that could be Against the Storm, that could be Clanfolk, it could be Old World, but I don't know. There's a few things that have inspired me to do Old World, and I've been wanting to do Old World again for a while, so I don't think it'll hurt to spend a little more time with Carthage. So, it's 24th. Wait, really? Oh, I think I messed something up. Sorry, just give me a second here. Where is this thing? Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought I messed up a date on something, but we're good. But yeah, so I think we'll probably be doing more Old World on. I think we'll be doing more Old World next. Next Monday. Just plans for the. Oh, what am I doing? As much as I love this game, I do need to finish for tonight. Just a word for the rest of the week. I am going to try to make it to the local game dev meetup in Ottawa on Wednesday, which means I'm likely not going to be able to do Phantom Brigade this Wednesday. It will be a day off for me. Apologies in advance for that, but I do think it's good to support the local game development scene. It's a bunch of people I have not seen in a couple of years, except virtually. So in this case here, this is definitely something that I think is worth doing. But I will be back on Friday, and I believe at that point my understanding is the new beta for Book of Hours will be available, so I'll most likely do that then. But anyways. This has been a long goodbye. I noticed that Darillion is playing Teslagrad 2. And I'll be honest, I haven't actually rated Darillion in a while. I found them through Industries of Titan, so I don't know that much about Teslagrad 2. I have noticed, though, that there's not a lot of people streaming Old World. So I will leave you in his capable hands, and I will also do my best to be a little less I actually don't mind doing the history stuff, but I would like to make a little more progress because I remember the third level on this scenario was a tough one. But anyways, we'll save that all for another chat. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in, I guess, on Friday, for those of you who just like watching my stuff in general. And we'll see the rest of you in a week for more Old World. Until then, take care.